They had a small defense, which was
Bigger
very
is better,
productive
Bill.
when he got there. But you can see from 03 to 04 the difference in defense, and that'll make our one-time compatriot Bill Parcells scratch his head. Aaron Rodgers wondering when his day will come. It's coming soon. I'm going to guess it's not going to be next with San Diego. We'll be back.
Eli, why don't you want to play for the Chargers?
You know, we're not really giving details right now. We just, we've made our decision, and that's what we're sticking to.
First choice in the 2004 NFL Draft, the San Diego Chargers select Eli Manning, quarterback, Mississippi.
I guess we hope that another team will trade, you know, me to another team for picks, or I don't know how this all works.
With the fourth pick in the 2004 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Phillip Rivers, quarterback, North Carolina State. Chargers and the New York Giants have exchanged their draft picks.
I got a great question to ask.
Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers.
Well, let's take a look at our Kawasaki trade recap, because it all happened very fast once the first pick and then the fourth pick were made. And so for the rights to Eli Manning, the Chargers, they got the Phillip Rivers, and then they get this pick right now, the 12th overall, which would have been the Giants' #1 pick. Hence, the Giants don't have a first-round pick this year. They got a 3, which they used to take a kicker. And then they got a 5, which they used to trade for a starting tackle, Roman Oben. The Chargers were one of the great stories of any year. They picked first last year. Other than LaDainian Tomlinson, they were horrible. They were 4-12. What happened? 12-4. They won the AFC West. Clearly a team not only on the move, on the Kawasaki move. Let's go out to the West Coast. George Smith is with the Chargers. George?
Well, Chris, for the first time in a long time, the Chargers are not desperate to fill any holes. They're sitting in a pretty sweet position with 2 picks in the first round. The conventional wisdom is that they'll go for help on defense, look for someone to help them out with the pass rush. But in talking with Coach Marty Schottenheimer and also GM A.J. Smith, they say they have the luxury of taking the best talent available. But right now, there are a couple of guys looking pretty good.
Well, you know, sometimes George, you know, he's a man of few words, so he wanted to stop there. Look, Aaron Rodgers does know San Diego was never going to be a home for him this year, but he's playing the waiting game, and as Tom Petty once sang, Susie Colbert, the waiting is the hardest part.
Well, you're right. Well, Ben Roethlisberger waited last year, and it turned out pretty good. A couple of weeks ago, Aaron, you were the clear-cut #1. What's changed over that time?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you. I haven't changed anything. I think it's just perceptions of me or maybe needs of the teams at the spots. And I'm just, you know, I'm not too worried. I'm excited about going to a team that wants me and making an impact right away.
What did you expect this day to be like?
Well, I was hoping to talk to you after I gotten picked, but hopefully I get some of that good luck you had with Roethlisberger last year, and maybe somebody will call up and want me.
How are you handling this?
Yeah, it's building character, I think, as we speak. I'm a humble guy, and I know that wherever I go, I'm going to make an impact right away, and I'm going to be excited to play there. And I know wherever I'm going to get picked is where I'm supposed to be. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and whoever picks me is where I'm supposed to be.
What were the feelings when Alex Smith went #1 overall?
I was really happy for him. You know, I've gotten to know Alex really well, and he's a great guy, a great quarterback, and although I would have loved to be there, obviously, I wish him the best.
Hang in. We'll be with you.
Thanks.
The other player who played the waiting game today is Mike Williams, the receiver out of USC, who hasn't played football in 15 months. He joins us now from his home in Tampa Bay. Mike, last year you tried to enter the NFL draft early. You were declared ineligible. What has this last year been like?
Oh, man, you know, it was rough. You know, it was difficult at times, but, you know, now that I've been drafted, now things have happened, you know, I don't even think about this past year not playing football. I'm focused on what's going to happen.
How did you hone your skills over the last year?
You know, I went up to CES and trained with Chip Smith and went down to Boca and trained with Chris Carter and, you know, really just stay focused. And I have great trainers, and Chris is a great mentor. So I had all the things I needed to be the player I am.
What did you learn from Chris?
you know, just the small things, the nuance of the position, and you know, what's going to help me on the next levels for separation and really just route running. So, you know, I'm just going to carry everything I learned from Chris and take it to the next level.
What do you do to simulate real football, hitting, tackling, those kinds of things?
I mean, you know, I really didn't do anything like that. You know, I couldn't. You know, I just focused on the things I could do, which is route running and doing things.
You're going to have a whole lot of company at wide receiver in Detroit with Carlos Rodgers and Roy Williams. How do you make yourself stand out?
You know, it's not about me going out and stand out. It's just me going to be a part of a great group of receivers. And, you know, I think we're going to be a force to reckon with at NFC. You know, all of us are real big guys. We can all run. We can all make big plays. And, you know, Chicago and Tampa and everybody else better look out.
Mike, thanks for joining us. Best of luck. All right. Let's go to the NFL Live set now, led by Trey Wingo. Hi, Trey.
Hey, Susie, thank you very much. Welcome in. Couple of questions I want to get to, guys. Jaws, I'll get to you in a minute. First, Merrill, you look at Detroit. I know how you feel about Mike Williams. Let's take that out of the equation. Let's focus on Detroit's organization here. First time ever we've had a team take a wide receiver 3 straight years in the first round. They have needs defensively, 22nd. Why are they going down this road?
Well, it's hard to always explain what Matt Millen is doing there, but, you know, how I feel about Mike Williams is very important in this particular pick, because how I felt he would transition into the National Football League, he would have to play on the weak side in a pure West Coast system. That's what Detroit does. He actually fits perfectly inside the system. He's not going to be a dominant player. He's not going to challenge you vertically. But if you put him on the weak side, and you have an explosive receiver on the other side, the strong side, which they do in Roy Williams, you've got Jones as a running back that's dominant to the strong side, then your weak side wide receiver, which will be Williams, will be dominant over there. But it'll be shorter routes. It's not going to be explosive routes.
Yeah, no question about that. They also got Marcus Pollard, the tight end from Indianapolis, over in free agency. They're loaded offensively. Defense still a question mark there. Let's go now to the situation with Aaron Rodgers, Jaws, sitting there in New York in that green room. It's almost the antithesis of what we had a year ago when Phillip Rivers, there was one team that really had him high on their board, San Diego, and that elevated his status. Once San Francisco passed on Aaron Rodgers, there really isn't another team in that top 15 that is enamored with Aaron, and that's why he's still sitting.
And there really is not a team that has a real demand for a quarterback, so clearly his value has fallen. His talent hasn't changed at all. A lot of people did not have Aaron Rodgers as a top 10 quarterback. That does not mean he's not going to be a terrific quarterback down the road. He has flaws. He has blemishes. The sampling of his throws deep down the field just were not there. That doesn't project well to the National Football League. In the NFL, your corners, linebackers, and safeties can cover man-to-man. They can squat on routes at 10 yards or less from the line of scrimmage. That's where Aaron Rodgers was most effective. He's a talent, but it's going to take some time to get him to get the ball, deep ball, as part of his repertoire.
He could be sitting there at 24 when Green Bay picks the heir apparent possibly to Brett Favre, maybe falling into their lap at 24. That's down the road. Boomer, let's go back to you in New York.
All right, Trey, thank you very much. Well, the San Diego Chargers made that quantum leap, and you say, well, they've got the best running back in football in Tomlinson. Drew Brees had a career year, and he'll be the quarterback next year. What did they do on defense? They stopped the run beautifully. They couldn't defend the pass. But one way you defend the pass is to rush the passer. And, you know, when I came over here this morning to the Javits Center, there was a cab driver with a San Diego hat on. It was powder blue, I might add. They ought to think about that in the future. The greatest uniforms in the history of football or in any sport. And he said, you know, I think I'm in tune with what's going on out there. I think they need a pass rusher. And Sean Merriman, I think that's who it's going to be. So if the Chargers rush the passer, Merriman will be a merry pick for him. Let's see if that cab driver was right. I got a lot of cab drivers, you know.
With the 12th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the San Diego Chargers select Sean Merriman, linebacker, Maryland.
That cabbie knew what he was talking about, bro.
I got a change back from the fair, too, by the way.
Boomer, you look
he's
at
like where, right? I mean, A and B, right?
my neck of the woods, College Park, Baltimore, Maryland. You look at Sean Merriman at University of Maryland, and I look at a kid who is 6'4" and changed 273 pounds, had a 41-inch vertical jump, basketball player in high school as well, bench presses over 400 and squats over 600. This kid is not just a workout warrior, a computer numbers guy. He's a little stiff, but I tell you what, he was productive at Maryland. That's all that matters. 8.5 sacks, had a lot of quarterback hurries, could drop back in coverage. made some big hits at Maryland, and a kid who's got a ton of talent. And for the San Diego Chargers, guys, they're a 3-4 team. Look at a pass rusher like Merriman, who can also hold up at the point at 273 pounds. Jamal Williams had 4 sacks in that 3-4. Their defensive ends, Igor Olshinsky and company, combined for 1.5 sacks. Steve Foley had 10 sacks as an outside linebacker. They need somebody to get some heat on the quarterback other than just Foley. And Merriman, obviously, in that 3-4, going to be a pivotal part of the equation where they got absolutely no productivity from the defensive ends. It was all about Jamal Williams and Steve Foley. Now those kids get some help. In terms of this overall selection, Dallas, I thought, look at Merriman. They went for the same type of hybrid in DeMarcus Ware. That's why San Diego ends up with them. Nothing wrong at all with his choice.
When I talked to a few sources, there was a source in St. Louis, and when they talked about Merriman, the intensity, the way he plays the game, running guys down, just relentless, said it reminded him a lot of Willie McGinnis. That says a lot for this young kid coming out of school.
Source wasn't a cab driver, was he?
A lot of cab drivers that know a lot of things. So the San Diego Chargers, remember, they have another first-round pick. Their regular first-round pick later on. So Chargers, clearly a team on the move. Houston with the 13th overall selection coming up next.
ESPN pay-per-view boxing presents a night of great fights tonight for only $29.99.
Draft presented by Coors Light.
In New York, we have had a dozen picks, starting with Alex Smith, quarterback from Utah by the San Francisco 49ers. Ronnie Brown, the running back, the first pick of the Nick Saban era in Miami. Braylon Edwards, who was chosen by the Cleveland Browns, the big wide receiver from Michigan, going to play in the cold at Cleveland. Cedric Benson, the workhorse running back from Texas. He'll lug the pigskin for the Chicago Bears. The Tampa Bay Bucks, they quickly jumped up, and they got Cadillac Williams, and that meant 2 running backs, Auburn, in the first 5. Pac-Man Jones, the defensive back from West Virginia, went to Tennessee, rebuilding their team. Minnesota, with their first of 2 first-round picks, took a speedster to replace Randy Moss. Troy Williamson, South Carolina. Antrell Roll, replacing perhaps, well, not Samari Roll, but this was the role for Arizona, and Denny Green, the corner from Miami. Washington took Carlos Rogers, the corner from Auburn, and then Detroit for the 3rd straight year, that's the eyebrow raiser, took wide receiver 3 straight years, this time Mike Williams, USC. Then 2 off-edge pass rushers went back-to-back. Dallas with DeMarcus Ware, San Diego with Sean Merriman, Houston, Carolina, Kansas City are up. We'll be back. And Aaron Rodgers, number to be called soon. York, and it took to the 13th pick, and it took almost 3 hours in, but finally a trade here in the first round. Our Kawasaki trade recap is that the New Orleans Saints have moved up from 16 to 13, swapping spots with Houston. In order to do that, it costs a 3rd-round pick next year. So New Orleans moving up, and there are a couple of individual, and you would think that Carolina on the clock next. We were thinking Jamal Brown, the big tackle, so this would be a spot to get in there, or maybe what, Thomas
Davies, one of those. Thomas Davis. There's Derek Johnson of Texas, the linebacker, still on the board too. But Thomas Davis, Jamal Brown makes some sense there, but we'll find out in a minute.
This is what we call a Gulf of Mexico trade, Houston and New Orleans, and the pick is already in. So Jim Haslett and the Saints had another curious season last year. Here's who they move up to get.
With the 13th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, just acquired from Houston by trade, the New Orleans Saints select Jamal Brown, tackle from Oklahoma.
Because I think that clearly was Carolina was going to do right below. I think that was the move.
Give Jim Haslett and that organization credit to know how the board was going to flow, because Jamal Brown, late in the week, has been penciled into the Carolina Panthers at 14. They jumped up by giving a third-round pick next year to the Houston Texans, and they get Jamal Brown. You can look at that right tackle spot and say, okay, Jermaine Mayberry comes over from Philadelphia. He was expected to be the right tackle, but he's better inside at guard. Now Mayberry can flow back inside. Now they have their right tackle, kid who's 6'5½", 315 pounds, did not allow a sack or a hurry this past season for Oklahoma at 130 knockdown blocks and started 40 straight games at Oklahoma. Very durable, a finisher, tough, intense, very focused. They said all along, talk to people in the NFL, that he was one of the most impressive interviews of anybody in this draft was Jamal Brown.
And I've spoke with a lot of offensive line coaches who, they like linemen with attitudes, and usually a left tackle goes before a right tackle. Jamal Brown's a right tackle. Alex Barron of Florida State's a left tackle, but I can tell you, just in terms of attitude, tenaciousness, they liked Jamal Brown. So therefore, the Saints got their man.
Hey, look, offensively, the Saints are dangerous. We know that.
Yeah, Bruce McAllister.
They just got even more. They just got even more dangerous with.
The Saints are one of those teams. They're goofy. When you think they're going to win, they don't play that way. When you think they're going to lose, right? They knocked team out at the end of the year at Carolina. So the New Orleans Saints made the trade to move up, and we'll hear from Houston soon. The Saints at 8-8, so they picked Jamal Brown, and now Carolina has to reshuffle the deck. We'll be back with Carolina Panthers on the clock with the 14th pick in the draft. Stay with us from the Javits Center in New York. It's chilling. The New Orleans just picked, and Carolina picks next, because this past week, we all in football lost one of the best. At 45 years young, Sam Mills lost his 2-year battle with intestinal cancer. Told at 5'9", a linebacker out of Montclair State, you'll never play pro football. He started at first the USFL, then 9 years with the New Orleans Saints, then as a player, and then coach with the Carolina Panthers. That's the memorial service Thursday in Charlotte for Sam Mills. He was the type of guy you want your kids to grow up to be, said General Manager Marty Hurney. Said John Fox, as a friend, he made us all better. He'll never play pro football? I don't think so. 5-time Pro Bowler, and he was a clear inspiration. When Carolina went to the Super Bowl a year ago, he'll be laid to rest in Red Bank, New Jersey on Monday. Our hearts go out to his wife, Melanie, his 4 children. Sam Mills passing away this week at the age of 45.
ESPN pay-per-view boxing presents a night of...
The 2005 NFL Draft rolls on from the Javits Center on the west side of New York City as we hit the highlights with the Mazda Draft Track. San Francisco, the #1 pick overall, takes quarterback Alex Smith of Utah. 3 running backs go in the top 5 for the first time ever in the common draft. Ronnie Brown of Auburn goes to Miami. Cedric Benson of Texas to Chicago. Cadillac Williams of Auburn goes to Tampa Bay. Michigan wide receiver Braylon Edwards, the first wide receiver taken. He's going to be a Cleveland Brown. USC receiver Mike Williams waited a year for this opportunity. He joins a loaded receiving corps in Detroit. And Aaron Rodgers, quarterback from Cal, continues to wait. Carolina on the clock. Let's go back to Boomer.
All right, Susie, thank you very much. So Carolina now has to reshift gears a little bit. This team, a year removed from the Super Bowl, and obviously it played themselves. Well, they didn't play themselves out of it the first half of the season last year. They won only 1 game in the first half of the year, and then came on like gangbusters, finishing a game out of the playoff situation at 7-9. But clearly, with Atlanta winning the division last year and Carolina, in the Super Bowl the year before, this Carolina-Atlanta little rivalry, or at least this coming year, is maybe 2 of the best home-and-home games that you're going to see, because I don't think there's any question that Carolina is an NFC contender again. Do you all agree with that?
Oh, there's no question about it. And I do believe that John Fox, the head coach there, and Marty Hurney, the general manager, they've done it. They have had excellent drafts since they have come together as a GM and coach, and I really believe that they are going to be back in the playoff. Just as the Saints, this is a tough division. I mean, the Buccaneers, who would have thought the Buccaneers a couple years after winning the Super Bowl would actually be at the bottom of the division, whereas the Panthers, the Saints, and certainly the Falcons are going to battle it out.
Well, being a hometown boy, Carolina is my favorite. But John Fox has this squad ready to play every single week. They've done a great job in the drafts the last 4 years. They lost Mushi Muhammad, but I think Cobra can step up this year and help them. They'll be getting Steve Smith back. In defense, they play with a tremendous amount of confidence. So I think this team is the team to beat in that division. You know, and again, they are my hometown team.
What they have to do, guys, is get Chris Jenkins back healthy. Missed 12 games, and what really impacted that defensive line was the loss of Chris Jenkins' injury, because Mike Rucker is a solid player, had 3.5 sacks. That was the lowest of his career, even dating back to 2000. So having Jenkins next to Rucker really gives that defensive line something they need. And without Jenkins last year, that defensive front productivity really dropped off.
You know what's interesting, too? You know, there's some uncertainty about Mark Fields, whether he's going to come back as a free agent or not. That's why with Derek Johnson, the Texas linebacker here, even though they obviously got a lot of defense, it's still, you just go ahead and take a guy like Derek Johnson when he's there and keep getting that defense stronger. By the way, you do have to chase Michael Vick around twice a year.
You do. And a key part is what Torrey said, Steve Smith, if he's healthy, because he's a game changer. Now, again, we've talked about the 2 different seasons that Carolina really had. And in the beginning, they were 1-7. I mean, in the end, and remember, they lost their last game. They forged their way back into contention, lose at the end. So 1-7 versus 6-2. But here's one thing we all found out last year. You know one of my expressions on NFL Countdown, Mort, you know it very well. 1 is an accident, 2 is a trend, okay? Jake Delhomme had an unbelievable season leading Carolina to the Super Bowl. Well, he was pretty darn good last year. He was kind of the last man standing. So now 2 really good seasons. I think we can pencil him in as an upper echelon quarterback in the NFL. Is that fair to say? It's my opinion.
It's very fair to say, but and Jake has established himself, but I do believe they are at least having a discussion about Aaron Rodgers, by the way. They probably won't go with the quarterback Aaron Rodgers here, but I'm certain they're having a discussion in their draft room about
Well, because, Mort, you're getting into guys like Alex Barron and Khalif Barnes. And Barron, there's some question marks about Barron. Tons of talent to be maybe the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd pick overall. Didn't play to the level of that talent. And you look at the defensive front. Do they want to address that with Jenkins coming back and add a security blanket in there? Or do they want to take a quarterback like Rodgers, who should not be there at this point of the 1st round?
Yeah, Carolina has selected, and again, this is a team, they in Atlanta. You know, if Tampa gets back in the fray, New Orleans, I mean, this once was a walk division. Not anymore. The pick is in. Trust me, it's in.
With the 14th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Thomas Davis, linebacker from Georgia.
Well, that'll help chase the quarterback around a little bit, huh?
Well,
combo guy, Mort, and you look at it and boom, you look at a guy who can play safety if his coverage skills are protected in the right defensive structure, or outside linebacker. And look at a guy who's a striker, one of the best tacklers in this draft, the kid who I think does a heck of a job getting after the quarterback. I know the comparisons out there, and Mort, you know who it was too.
The comparisons with Derek Brooks, I'll talk about that in just a little bit.
And you look at a guy, I'll tell you, as a tackler, when he gets near you, he brings you down. He does not miss tackles. And that's one concern we had with Derek Johnson, not a concern with Thomas Davis. I'll tell you, he's an impact player. It's going to be, like I say, it's interesting to see whether he will be, in fact, the guy should utilize as a safety or have to utilize as a weak side linebacker. All I can say is when I talked to people in the league, they said, just mark him down as a defensive player. We'll figure out where he fits in. He's a football player. A little surprised, I think, when you look at this pick. You could say, okay, you know, is he the player that a lot of teams were targeting at this point? Yes, he was. How is he going to fit into this defensive scheme? If they get Jenkins back, they're okay up front. They still need an offensive tackle. Could use a wide receiver. Thomas Davis, though, was a player that Kansas City, when you look at, was targeting at 15. Interesting that New Orleans jumped ahead of Carolina to get Jamal Brown. And here's Carolina at 14, taking a player that Kansas City Chiefs really had an interest, we all believe, in Thomas Davis. So I think the Chiefs, Carl Peterson, Dick Vermeil, maybe they are a little disappointed right now that Thomas Davis is off the board.
Mel, I think it's noteworthy that they announced that they took Thomas Davis, linebacker from Georgia, even though he played safety. You know, going back to that story, the comparisons to Derek Brooks, Mark Richt, the head coach at Georgia, I spoke with him last month, and he said that Thomas Davis reminds him of Derek Brooks, and Mark Richt was at Florida State as an assistant coach when Brooks was a player at Florida State. And Jim Haslett, by the way, of the New Orleans Saints, told me that Thomas Davis is the best tackler he's seen come into the draft in a few years.
Don't move him. Please don't move him. He has comparisons of a Derek Brooks. This guy is a safety. He uplifts this defensive secondary right now with him and Mentor and Gamble and Lucas. this defensive secondary is a threat. I will leave him at the safety, and I will let him dominate. And you know what he does? He gives you a physical presence for those receivers like myself lurking across the middle. I like him at the safety. I wouldn't move him. No way.
He's moving.
He's a football player. I'm leaving him at the safety.
You don't know that.
I don't like
Oh, I do.
They didn't ask Torrey yet.
maybe I'll make a call down in Carolina.
They'll listen.
Yeah, I think I'll do that.
They'll listen. So we're almost midway through the first round. Kansas City is up next. Here's Aaron's reaction when Thomas Davis picked. Yeah, but it's coming. It's coming, Aaron. Hang with us.
Welcome back to the 2005 NFL Draft. I'm Andrea Kramer with Trent Green, part of our Players Roundtable. The Chiefs are on the clock. Now let's see. Number one ranked offense, 31st ranked defense. That sort of sounds like a big shock where they might go. But look at some of the offseason acquisitions that Dick Vermeil has made. Carlos Hall, Kendrell Bell, Sammy Knight, the safety, and just recently, the big one, Patrick Surtain. I know when I talked to Coach Vermeil, he said that getting Surtain was going to completely affect who they take with the #1 pick. What do you think? Which direction do you think they still go?
Well, it definitely does, and you got to give a lot of credit to Coach Vermeil and Carl Peterson because they made that very clear at the end of the season. They were going to make changes on the defensive side of the ball, and like you mentioned, we brought in 4 veteran defensive guys that are going to drastically change the look of our defense. But I still think they're leaning towards defense. I know we've had a lot of problems and injuries at linebacker. Mike Maslowski's coming off a knee surgery. Sean Barber's coming off of a knee surgery. Scott Fajita just recently had ankle surgery. So this may be an area we focus in the first round.
And yet, let's not forget, while you did have such a productive offense, still the oldest offense in the NFL, 2 wide receivers even, 32 and 33 years old. What do you do about just the age of the offense?
Well, you're right. And if we were the oldest offense a year ago, what's that make us?
Because everybody's coming back, right?
We're still the oldest offense. We'll probably only have 1 new starter on the offense, and that'll be at right tackle. There's a couple guys competing for that spot. But it is an area of concern, and it is one that we're going to have to address at some point in time. And maybe this is a time that we start adding some depth and bring in some young guys. And I know they're excited about the wide receiver out of Oklahoma, Mark Clayton. Whether or not we decide to go offense in the first round remains to be seen, but I still think the emphasis will be on defense.
Yeah, it'll be all whether or not you did enough lobbying while you've been there. But it's interesting because Coach Vermeil had told me that one thing that he's concerned about is getting the defense upgraded while the offense is still at the level that it is. Even with these additions that we've talked about on defense, what do you need to do? What do you need to do to get better, to be tighter on defense?
Well, there's a number of different things. First of all, last year was Gunther Cunningham's first year back as defensive coordinator, so there are a lot of people learning a new defensive scheme, and he was very demanding of the guys. And I think just that extra year in the defense, guys will understand it better. I think the fact that the people that we already mentioned, the speed factor, the leadership factor in the secondary with Sammy Knight and Patrick Surtain, those guys are going to bring a leadership, and I think just there's a new excitement around the offseason program because you got a lot of new fresh faces, and guys are really looking forward to coming back and working hard. Like you mentioned, the offense is getting older. There's a couple of guys that have hinted at retirement, and so this is the time for us to get it done.
But Dick Vermeil did tell me that he expects to have Will Shields back, one of the gentlemen that you're referring to. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs are still on the clock. When we return, we will have their pick. Much more to come. 2000 NFL Draft rolls on. Stay with us.
People said, well, he'll have an okay career. The rest is history. He's going to be going to the Hall of Fame, and he waited a long time for what was the longest day for him. Turned out to be long days for everybody trying to tackle him for the next 10 or 12 years. So I only say that to Aaron Rodgers as experience. And that sets us up for 3 and Out presented by Hummer. So now that we're in a bunch of teams that don't, quote, need a quarterback, where, I'm going to ask each one of you guys, where does Aaron Rodgers get picked?
Well, you know, at 24 and 25, you got the Packers and the Washington Redskins who might take a quarterback in this particular first round, or it could be Tampa Bay at the top of the second round, or somebody trading into the bottom of the first round to get Aaron Rodgers. But just remember, the National Football League invited Aaron Rodgers here because they, too, thought he would be gone by now.
Well, another quarterback in that mix is Jason Campbell from Auburn. You're getting into a territory now, the first round, where if you look at Green Bay and Washington in particular, everybody has targeted Washington. Joe Gibbs, strong interest in Jason Campbell. All of a sudden then, does Jason Campbell become the second quarterback taken?
Very
and
possible.
Aaron drops into the late first, early second, where maybe a John Gruden, who was thinking about Aaron Rodgers at early point at 5, now has 36, so maybe Aaron Rodgers falls in his lap. I go back, and you mentioned Thurman Thomas, Boom. I remember talking to Boomer Esiason in '84 when 3 Bengals went in the first round ahead of Boomer. He was kind of an afterthought in the second round, had a nice career. So I look at Aaron Rodgers, I know it's hard to go through this process and wait, but some good things happened for some players who were not happy on draft day, but turned out to have great careers.
Aaron Rodgers will have the luxury to go play with Brett Favre in Green Bay. That's where he's going.
Wow.
Well, there'll be a good guy to learn from. And I got another curveball, and I have no inside information on it at all. But who has thrown a curve through the years? Oakland, Gannon retiring, Kerry toward the end. He plays in the backyard. I'm just throwing it out, just a shot. Here's the Chiefs pick.
With the 15th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Derek Johnson, linebacker from Texas.
Unbelievably around the ball, Mel. The only quote knock is that he doesn't take on the ball carriers as much as you want, but boy, did he have production and falling on fumbles, etc.
Exactly, Chris. I think you look at the sideline speed there, jarring the ball loose. A kid who's a gifted athlete. His weight was around 230 as a junior. Now it's 240 plus, 6'3" and change, runs well in the 4.6s, vertical 37.5. So you know he's a gifted athlete. There's no question. Going into this year, I thought Derek Johnson, if you want to throw Mike Williams into that mix, were 1 and 1A as the top overall players going in. The reason he drops down to the Kansas City Chiefs at pick 15 is because he was credited with a lot of tackles, but he missed some as well. And I think that intensity level that you see at times has to be sustained over the course of 60 minutes. Sometimes maybe things come a little too easy for a Derek Johnson, but going through a blocker rather than around him, sometimes you got to be more aggressive and not be as much finesse. But I think Derek Johnson at this point for the Kansas City Chiefs, who they had looked at Thomas Davis, but he unfortunately for them went 1 pick earlier. Maybe they wouldn't have. But the bottom line is Derek Johnson was regarded as maybe the 10th pick for Detroit. The Chiefs get him at 15.
Now, you know what's interesting about this pick? The Chiefs taking Derek Johnson. Their former defensive coordinator, Greg Robinson, who's now the head coach at Syracuse, spent a year last season as the defensive coordinator for the University of Texas. Greg Robinson told me that he's had Marvin Jones with the Jets and John Mobley and Al Wilson with the Broncos. He named a couple other linebackers. He said to him, it's not even close, that Derek Johnson is the best of that bunch, and he would love this pick if he were still the defensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs.
And Mort, when you look at this pick and you say, okay, Derek Johnson, would you have been enamored with Derek at pick 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10? I would not have been at that point. But to get maybe the 8th or 9th best player, at least where I rated the players, and get him at 15, this is a weak area. You look at Fujita, okay. Sean Barber's off in the injury. You had Kendrell Bell, get more of a stout force at middle linebacker if he can stay healthy. Jared Allen, nice rookie year. Good pick by Carl Peterson. 4th round last year, led the Chiefs with 9 sacks. I think this is a kid who will have an opportunity to upgrade a positional need area with the Chiefs. Not a bad choice at this point in the first round.
You know Dick Vermeil loves to move the ball on offense. He was your coach. But sooner or later, right? Sooner or later, Torrey, he can't just say, okay, we need 35.
Right. We have to stop somebody. And I think he's making that a point right now by drafting Derek Johnson to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Houston might surprise.
I think he would definitely lift that defense right away.
Well, we should remind people they signed Patrick Surtain yesterday, all right? So they signed Sammy Knight, who's been a around-the-ball Pro Bowl player with Miami. You mentioned Kendra Bell, Carlos Hall, a pass rusher from Tennessee. So they're addressing defense, and of course with this draft pick as well. So last year, really the only change, not the only, was to change coordinators at Gunther Cunningham. Let's try some new players, and they're doing that. So one of the prolific offenses in football, I hope it can be okay on defense.
Spears still on the board as well. And you have the 2 offensive linemen, Barron and Barnes, and you have Chris Spencer and David Boss, both of whom figure maybe late first, early second round. Both very versatile. Spencer can play center or guard, and Boss can play center or guard. Both are going to be nice picks early round 2. Not necessarily right here. As we talked about, there are some defensive linemen here that can upgrade the Houston Texans' defensive line, which really last year was a major problem.
That's right. And I just wonder if a team like the Cowboys also, as they see Marcus Spears drop a little bit, whether or not they're itching to get up there to take him rather than wait to see if he's going to fall to number 20.
Well, are there teams that perhaps, who's another interest, like maybe Erasmus
Philadelphia, I mentioned.
James.
Erasmus James is
kind of the last of those. We saw Merriman and Ware go right away. He's kind of the last of those first-round baboom pass rushers.
And Erasmus James, guys, would have been probably a top 5, at worst top 10 pick had it not been for some durability concerns. A hip injury, 2003, all season. Erasmus James sidelined. Great start this past year. Then the injury, missed half the year, ankle injury against Purdue. That's why Erasmus James is still on the board. It's not about ability. He's a heck of a pass rusher.
One of the best picks last year in the first round was by Houston. They did have 2 picks last year, but their first one was Dante Robinson, the rookie corner who couldn't do much more as a rookie last year. They're hoping to duplicate that sort of pick. If they keep it, we'll be back.
Obvious to me right now that the Jets just don't understand what the draft's all about. The Colts have a storied history of draft day ineptitude, and it continues here today. That's why the Colts are picking second every year in the draft, not battling for the Super Bowl like other clubs in the National Football League.
Who in the hell is Mel Kiper, anyway?
And I have a right to my opinion. He has a right to his.
We don't have to take anybody that Mel Kiper says we have to take. Mel Kiper has no more credentials to do what he's doing than my neighbor, and my neighbor's a postman.
That's why the Colts are the laughing stock of the league year in and year out. Only one can answer this is obviously Mike Ditka. I totally disagree with the pick.
Way to mince words, Mel.
You know what? I was jabbing Tolbert. I was jabbing Tolbert before we went to that.
Threw Mel under the bus.
Why not? He always does.
You know what? That clip with Tolbert, that's run more than me catching a pass from Doug Williams.
It's great TV,
I think I've seen that more.
It's great TV.
Well, hey, what happened to those jackets that we were wearing in the mid-'80s there in front of that board?
Nowhere to be found.
You can still fit in yours.
No.
Mine I use as a washcloth. All right, on to 2005, Mel. We digress. All right, by your rankings, by your ratings, who are the best that are left?
Well, keep in mind, we're only at pick 16. We're not at pick 35.
Yes.
It may seem like we are because a lot of these kids have been sitting around for hours now, but we're only at pick 16. Jerry Rice went 16, if I'm not mistaken, and Nick Smith went 17. So these kids should not be disappointed or depressed. Aaron Rodgers is going to be tough to find a spot for a quarterback. Green Bay, Washington, the only 2 in the first round right now that look like possibilities. Mark Clayton is Torrey Holt's favorite wide receiver, and Travis Johnson, interesting, because he can play in the 3-4 or a 4-3, as could Marcus Spears. I really think Roddy White's underrated, and Dan Cody is one of those hybrids still on the board.
Roddy White.
The Texans did, in fact, entertain trade offers for this, but I believe they are probably going to go ahead and take their guy. They really like this Travis Johnson kid, the defensive tackle. They got to get stout inside, and that was a temptation for them to move out. I think they probably make the pick here.
So after throwing Mel under the bus, now you're coming back with this?
Cab driver called me. Cabs, taxis, buses.
Tough to get a cab in Houston. Remember from the Super Bowl? The pick is in. We think the pick is in. To the commissioner for the pick with the Houston Texans. 16 overall. The half-moon portion of the first round.
With the 16th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Travis Johnson, defensive tackle from Florida State.
Now, Mort, you got one.
Tell you, you're right, Mort, you called it. No, what? Go ahead.
No, you got one there. Never mind.
Now, you look at Travis Johnson, as we said, 3-4, 4-3 didn't matter. Well, this is a 3-4 scheme where the Houston Texans didn't get much out of Gary Walker, really the last 2 seasons. You have Seth Payne with injury problems. You have Robert Smith, okay, not great. They need a boost there in this defensive front. Travis Johnson's a kid who really, you talk about improvement from junior to senior year. He had 3 tackles for loss as a junior, 18 stops behind the line of scrimmage this past season. Also increased that sack total from a half a sack to 3 sacks. Kid who's 6'3.5", 305 pounds. Reminded a lot of defensive line coaches of Kevin Williams when Williams was at Oklahoma State. Now doing a very good job with the Minnesota Vikings. Travis Johnson made the most of his final campaign down in Tallahassee for Bobby Bowden's Florida State Seminoles. Bobby Bowden had to be happy with the way this kid elevated his game from his junior to his senior year.
Well, they played the Buffalo Bills and Pittsburgh Steelers their first 2 games. They need somebody to plug up the hole against those guys.
Yes, they do. Well, they're a team, look, that has made improvement every year, but now maybe the heat's on a little bit. Playoff time, at least the owner and there are some others around Houston are hoping. That's tough in that division, that's for sure, with the Colts sitting there. Meanwhile, a guy that knows what winning divisions is about. A year ago, Dick Vermeil and the Chiefs did that. Let's go over to Susie. Suze?
Thanks, Chris. And through our Coors Light video conferencing, we welcome in Dick Vermeil. Dick, #1 offense 31st ranked defense. Greg Robinson, your former defensive coordinator, was a defensive coordinator in Texas with Derek Johnson. What did he fine-tune in his game just this past year?
Well, I think he liked playing in Greg's defensive scheme and how they taught him fundamentally to play. They changed his scheme in techniques and how he played within that scheme, and he played well. And we had determined even as early as yesterday morning, if Derek was sitting there and Thomas Davis were together, we would take the guy that was sitting there when it became our 15th pick, and it ended up being Derek Johnson, and a guy with tremendous athletic talent and range and tremendous potential. And it'll take a little while to get him ready, but I think our coaches can get him ready to play.
Well, last year you brought in Gunther Cunningham to coach the defense, didn't make too many changes in terms of personnel. Why the change in philosophy for this season?
Well, obviously we didn't improve as much as we thought we should. You know, and you can always blame the coaches, and you can, that, and we didn't blame any one person. But I think that we have to upgrade our personnel and get some better leadership over there, and I think Carl Peterson and Lynn Stiles and Bill Koharic and our personnel department, Chuck Cook, have done a real good job of helping us do that.
How would you describe the urgency here in terms of getting the defense on par as the offense ages?
Well, I think the window's open for us to, and if we don't get it done soon, the Will Shields will retire and Willie Rofe will retire, and we won't be as good an offensive line, and we won't be as good offensive coaches.
Dick, thanks.
Thank you.
Let's go back to you, Chris.
Believe in you.
All right, Suze, thank you very much. So, Dick Vermeil, he knows you can't be 31st in defense and go anywhere. He knows that much football. That's for darn sure. Chiefs will be much better. Cincinnati, Minnesota, St. Louis coming up.
With the second pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select Donovan McNabb, quarterback, Syracuse University.
The fans are irate over the fact that they didn't take Ricky Williams, but I hope the fans don't take it out on Donovan McNabb.
No, they better not.
And from 99 to 2005, things worked out pretty well for Donovan McNabb. The Rodgers family can only hope for the same. On the left is Darla Rodgers, Aaron's mom, and she's being consoled by none other than Wilma McNabb. A little sympathy, a little consoling. The business of the NFL learned sooner rather than later for Aaron Rodgers. Now let's join now the NFL Live crew and Trey Wingo.
All right, Susie, thanks. And, of course, Mrs. McNabb, also a soup salesman, and the team mom for the Philadelphia Eagles. So she's got a lot going on right now, which is good for her. Aaron Rodgers, listen, Jaws, when you look at this quarterback, obviously he has skill, obviously he has talent, but there are some things that may concern teams, and one of the reasons he's still around is Cincinnati waits to pick with the 17th overall selection. As you break down Aaron Rodgers, what are the things that jump out at you that might be having teams thinking, wait a second?
Well, actually, when I broke down the quarterbacks, I had Jason Campbell from Auburn as my #2 quarterback and Aaron Rodgers #3. And I studied a lot of tape on Aaron Rodgers. I spoke to a lot of coaches around the league, and I got some of the workout tape on his pro day. And I want to show you this because I saw some things I really liked and a few things I didn't like. I really don't like this ball position because I don't think it gives you enough whip to throw the ball deep down the field on a consistent basis. But I think that will be changed when he gets to the pro level. But I like the drive off the back foot and the weight going forward. Then I like this, the flex knee. That allows the upper body to come through on the throw and create velocity. Now, the shoulders are very important, parallel to the ground. The short to intermediate passing game, you need to have those shoulders parallel to the ground for accurate throwing. That's what he can do. Once again, you see the high ball position. Throwing to the left, you must open your plant foot on a 45-degree angle. That allows your hips to turn, and you could be accurate throwing to your left. You can see he does a great job right there of planting that back foot, 45-degree angle, opens up the hips, and you see the knee flex again, allowing the upper part of the body to come through. The deep ball is where he has struggled, but he's sound mechanically with it. You'll see the back foot plant. Now you have to drive the ball up in the air. So you see the shoulders pointing up more than parallel the ground on the short pass. And here's what I really like about his deep ball. The wrist supinated. In other words, underneath the football. You must drive the football up and down the field with air under it. He's very fundamentally sound in that area, but he has not been consistent in completing balls down the field. Now, after I looked at tape on Aaron Rodgers, game tape, I didn't see a sampling of a lot of balls deep down the field. But when I got the workout tape, what I saw was a guy that did throw the square in, did throw the deep comeback, did throw the post and the goal pattern very well. That was in the workout with shorts and a T-shirt on. I didn't see enough of that under game conditions. Now, no matter where Aaron Rodgers go, I still believe he projects well in the National Football League.
Well, whenever we talk about Aaron Rodgers, you're going to hear people mention the two words Jeff Tedford. Jeff Tedford, his head coach at Cal, and Jeff Tedford has had a lot of quarterbacks, Merrill, go into the NFL. Akili Smith, Joey Harrington, Kyle Bowler, Trent Dilfer, and David Carr. None of those has become a big breakout star yet, and you hear a lot of people say, well, these guys are system quarterbacks, not pure talent quarterbacks. What's the thought?
I think a lot of it is the system. You know, Tedford's worried about winning in college, not worried about getting quarterbacks prepared to go to the National Football League. When you look at Rodgers, and one of the games that stands out with everybody is the USC game. But when you study that tape, of his 27 attempts, 19 of those 27 never traveled beyond 10 yards. It is a very short passing game. Bubble screens, quick out routes, hitch routes. When you complete those, you're going to have a high % completion rate. But when you do not have that, and you got to go down the field like Jaws is saying, transitioning to the National Football League, that's the roads, the balls that you've got to complete, the ones that are down the field, not the short ones.
And the completions on those long ones in that game were, what, 2 of 8 in that contest?
Yeah, it was a very low number. It was about 70% with the short pass. When you went down the field, that significantly declines.
All right, we shall see as Aaron Rodgers continues to wait and hear his name called. Odds are it will not be in Cincinnati, who have the 17th pick. Carson Palmer's entrenched there.
He's good.
Yeah, he has a future. We'll see what happens. Cincinnati maybe thinking defense. Let's go back to New York and back to Chris Berman. Boom.
Okay, thank you, fellas. By the way, though, say what you want. Against USC, the national champs, beat them once, Aaron Rodgers, and should have beat him a second time. So, toughest team they played, I see no problem with that. Cincinnati, Mort, well, the pick is in, I believe, but you're high on this team.
I think if you were picking a sleeper team to end the New England Patriots run to the Super Bowl, the AFC, a sleeper team is the Cincinnati Bengals. They took the Patriots to the mat last December, and Carson Palmer left the game with a knee injury. He had 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. And if they fix this defense, the Bengals fix this defense, watch out this year.
Look, that franchise, and we know it went since 1990 to a winning season. You know, they hadn't had one. 8-8, 2 years in a row under Marvin Lewis. That's huge progress. And they pick us in with the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll see, Mort. Your offense in place.
They go D.
With the 17th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select David Pollock, defensive end from Georgia.
There's a name we heard a lot, Mel, and a lot more this past week. As far as production in college on defense, he won almost every award.
He really did. I think you look at a guy and you talk about even the interest that some teams had that were 3-4 oriented to get him on his feet, like a Teddy Bruschi and a Mike Vrabel, and certainly you look at David Pollock. Productivity-wise, it was incredible. The short arms were the concern. Will offensive line be able to get into that body and neutralize that charge? He was knocked around some at the point because he's about 6'2" and change, about 265 to 270. But when you look at all the tackles for loss, the sacks, the hustle, the toughness, the dedication, had a 37-inch vertical jump. The kid's an athlete, ran 4.8 to 25 reps. So I think you look at a kid that you can do a lot of different things with. Marvin Lewis, defensive-minded coach, had Peter Boulware. When Peter Boulware went to Baltimore, said, what are you going to do with Peter Boulware? I'm a combo guy. Well, Marvin Lewis will find a way to maximize the ability of David Pollock if you can overcome the short arms and the fact that he was bouncing around a little bit at the point of attack.
If you rank the elite players in the Southeastern Conference over the last 4 years, David Pollock's name is going to be mentioned, if not first, certainly in the top 2 or 3 or 4 players. And this is a guy who was productive, is athletic, and I know there are some teams heartbroken, hoping he would slip a little bit more. And we also know a team in the top 5 that might have shocked people by taking him.
Did you see that last play?
Oh, yeah.
That's unbelievable.
South Carolina.
It was unbelievable. By the way, so did a lot of folks thought that he was unbelievable with the Lombardi Award winner, which is best defensive lineman. The Maxwell Club gave him the Bednarik Award, Defensive Player of the Year. The Hendricks Award is Defensive End of the Year. And then you see First Team All-American, not to mention SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Now, does that mean that you win the most awards in college? You are Deacon Jones in the National Football League? Not necessarily, but production with a motor.
Production and maybe the best conference in football.
Whoa, and a motor. I'm not knocking him.
You have to have a motor playing at that end. And like Mel said, Marvin Lewis will maximize this young man's potential. He will have a motor for 4 straight quarters that will help that Cincinnati Bengals defense right away.
The 30-inch arms, huh? They don't make shirts for guys that big with 30-inch arms, do they?
No, and I'll tell you what, you look at the Bengals, we were talking as you guys were, and Mort said, hey, they could be a surprise team in contention for a Super Bowl. The areas of concern, cornerback. You look at Torrey James, a career year, Pro Bowl year with all those interceptions. I believe it was about 9. Kewan Ratliff with a young developing kid out of Florida. So if Ratliff improves, he may challenge Deltha O'Neal, who gives up too many big plays. Could use an interior offensive lineman. You look at the tight end spot. They better get some productivity at that tight end position. They got nothing last year. That's an area they need to address as well. So Marvin Lewis and that Bengal organization has some work to do from this point on. This draft has to solidify several other areas.
And don't forget, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Those are heavy teams. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to move up, you're moving up to 2 quality ball clubs. That's right. They do get to play Cleveland twice, who's obviously rebuilding. David Pollack, not only productive, but an intriguing and engaging young man. Take a look.
Why do birds suddenly appear? Well, the down is down 13.1 today. You won't have to wait for me to mature. I already have a little bit. I got a long way to go, dog. That's a lie.
Roundtable along with Trent Green of the Chiefs, Mike Vrabel from the Patriots, John Jansen from the Washington Redskins. Minnesota Vikings still on the clock with their second pick of the day. With their first pick at number 7, they took wide receiver Troy Williamson from South Carolina. The reason they had to do that is they traded away Randy Moss. One of the more memorable things that happened with Randy Moss this season, guys, was toward the end of the season. Vikings are playing at Washington. Half is just about over. Randy Moss walks off. Game is just about over. Randy Moss walks off the field. About a play to go. That did not work well, did not play out well in the Vikings locker room. How did you guys see that? You're there on the sidelines there too, John.
Yeah, I got a chance to see him walk off the field. They had a chance, to get an onside kick, get another play, and possibly win the game. This is a team who's going into the playoffs. It's not like, after this play is over, their season's done. They're going into the playoffs. So what kind of message is he sending by walking off the field, giving up on his team, saying, you know what, we've lost this one, let's just move on, blah, 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 whatever it is. You can't just walk off the field, leave your teammates, leave everybody out there.
Yeah, the fact of the matter remains, Randy Moss does things that a lot of people in the National Football League wish they had the stones to do. He remains the #1 deep threat down the field in the National Football League. Yeah, but are you not going to throw to him if he's on your team?
Yeah, you're going to throw to him if he's on your team, but you need somebody you can rely on, somebody you can count on. He's supposed to be in the right spot when you go to throw the ball as a quarterback. If you think he's supposed to be in a certain area and he decides to change the route and throw his hand up and all of a sudden do something different and it costs you an interception, the Minnesota Vikings made a commitment to him financially. Red McCombs stepped up and said, here is all this money. We know you have the off-the-field problems. Here's all this money to be the leader of this team. And time after time, he has done stuff like this to not only show he's not the leader of the team, but to walk out on his teammates.
Dante Culpepper's the leader of that team. Randy Moss
Dante got his contract after
production.
Randy.
He was the production on that football team.
You of all people should know how team dynamics work. You've been in Super Bowls. You've done those things. You're telling me that if Randy Moss is on your team, obviously he's a great player. He puts up a lot of numbers. But he hasn't won championships. He hasn't been on a team. He hasn't led a team to win championships. Dante Culpepper hasn't either. It's not to say he's not a great player, but he doesn't win ball games when they need to win ball games. And that's what, when you pay a guy that much money, he has to be a leader on your team. He has to be able to make plays in big games.
Peyton Manning has never won a Super Bowl. Michael Vick, Dante Culpepper, all these guys, don't give me Super Bowls. Give me numbers. 16 Sundays, 1,500 yards, 20 touchdowns.
You don't have a problem with him walking off the field?
I don't have a problem. I think that it doesn't sit well. But I'm talking about production.
It sends, yeah, you can have production.
The message is clear. The message is he's the best receiver, deep threat in the NFL.
Right. And it comes down to crunch time. You'd count on him. He'd be reliable.
Would Randy Moss work on the Patriots?
He may be a front runner, but I would count on him.
If you're winning.
All right, guys. Yeah. I think we got the pick coming in, so let's see what the Vikings are going to do. Chris, back to you.
Okay, Andrea, guys, thank you very much. So the Mossless Vikings with their second first-round pick. And that's the Minnesota board. Troy Williamson right there. You see that that was their pick up top, and the pick that they obtained from Oakland in essentially the Randy Moss trade. And here we go. This is a team, hey, they're contenders. Make no mistake about that. Let's see what they do this time.
Defense. Spears.
With the 18th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Erasmus James, defensive end, Wisconsin.
Yeah, well, there's some teams directly below that we're looking at him, that's for sure, because he's kind of the last of that sort, at least at this level. Agree with that, Mel?
I'll tell you, look at this defense. They had Pat Williams to go along with Kevin Williams, who was an outstanding early first-round pick a few years ago. Udeze last year in the first round. You have Darian Scott from Ohio State with a third-round pick. Now you had Erasmus James, and I think now you're getting into a situation where you wonder about can he stay healthy, but you have some other options. So if Erasmus James can't be out there all the time, you have some security there as well. But if he would have stayed healthy all year, I really believe, based on the way he started the season, that he would have been a top 5 to 10 pick in the first round. And you're talking about 18 for Minnesota. They already added Troy Williamson. They got the speed wide receiver they wanted. Now to get James at this point to go along with the defensive front that we're already discussing. That's why Minnesota is going to be a very trendy pick to maybe go a long way into the playoffs. I won't say Super Bowl, but go a long way this year.
And you're talking about a team that plays in a dome. You put these guys like on the edge like Udeze and now Erasmus James at home in a dome, and you are putting some heat on the quarterback.
This guy's a real good understanding, Torrey, of how to rush the quarterback from a technique standpoint and a leverage standpoint.
What I see is attack from the offensive side of the football and from the defensive side of the football field. With the moves that they have made in the free agents, who upgrading their defense and bringing in Troy Williamson with Nate Burleson and that bunch, this team will attack.
And now with Williamson and Erasmus James, as you just mentioned, I mean, this is, look, they beat the Packers on the road in the playoffs. They were around with Philly, had a chance. And we've talked about in their earlier pick what they've, and Mel alluded to some, Pat Williams, who's still a very good player they got from the Bills. Harris they got in the Moss trade. Coward is not the player that he once was, but he certainly understands the position. Fred Smoot, Darren Sharper, who certainly knows that division. I think they're the team to beat in that division. And I hate to say it with Brett Favre playing for another team. And I would like to see Culpepper, kind of an unbridled Culpepper as the leader.
Well, he is the leader. I think that was part of Randy Moss being out of there.
Yes, absolutely.
Culpepper's performance when Randy Moss was out of the lineup and even being hurt last year basically convinced the Vikings that they can live. There is life without Randy Moss, and I think that they needed to clearly establish that Dante Culpepper, this is his team. He's in charge of this team.
I absolutely agree with it. It all starts at the quarterback position with Dante Culpepper. I think he still has the players around him to be an effective offensive group. We'll see.
Let me, since it's not out of the realm here yet, and we talked Randy Moss some. Randy Moss in a new situation in Oakland, Torrey. I mean, obviously, you as a receiver respect what he is on the field. Will a change of scenery, you know Randy some, will he be a different guy in Oakland a little bit, you think?
We'll see. We say,
you've been Pro Bowl teammates.
You are who you are. I would like to see him make some adjustments with some of the antics and some of the things that he do. But Randy is Randy. Who am I to judge?
No, I know.
But I know one thing. They're going to get a guy that's going to stretch the football field. That's going to score a lot of touchdowns for that football team.
Oh, no question about that. And speaking of stretching the football field, the St. Louis Rams are on the clock. We're going to take a break, and then no. See, I knew it. I shook off the signal. That's too fast.
Randy Moss and the Raiders.
What do you need, Torrey? What do you need?
I would look for us. I would like to see us bring in a safety. Somebody that can help us with some range. Somebody that can make some plays.
Poole would be a good one.
I like to see Poole.
Rodney Poole of Oklahoma.
Yeah, Rodney Poole, Oklahoma. I like to see him play. I would like to see him come to St. Louis and help us. I think with the system that we run, Coach Marmon, the system that they run, with interchanging our safeties, I think he can come in right now and be a good fit for us.
You got to look. At this stage of the first round, you really have to look at who's going to be there at that point that maybe surprises you. And we discussed, Torrey, Alex Barron, offensive tackle from Florida State. And here's a left tackle who slides this far because he's not consistent, but he's awful talented. When's somebody going to pull the trigger and take Alex Barron?
pick is in. St. Louis Rams. Torrey, pay attention.
With the 19th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the St. Louis Rams select Alex Barron, tackle from Florida State.
That's it. Good call, Mel. Good call on the run. And there's Alex Barron in Orlando getting the call. St. Louis are well with the problems of what Kyle Turley and Coach Mike Martz. Now Kyle said want to play defense, want to the tackle. Certainly a fit there, huh?
I'll tell you, you look at Barron and you see a kid who's 6'7" and a quarter, 322 pounds. And you talk about a kid who's got a lot of ability, more finesse, not a guy who drives people and buries people like Jamal Brown does. And in pass protection, this kid did a good job overall. But you see a kid who still is not the dominant force that he should be. And I tell you, he gets beaten by players who are not nearly the caliber of Alex Barron. He should be able to just completely take out of a football game. I look at a kid who needs to step it up several notches. If he does, you got something to work with. To me, it's always been discussed in drafts for the last 30 years, boom or bust. And at this stage of the first round, you're talking about 19. This is where Mike Martz says, hey, we could get a Pro Bowler or we get a guy who falls by the wayside in 3 years. But at this point, for a guy who has top 5 ability, why not see what we can get out of him, see if we can coach him up and motivate him and maximize that ability?
Well, I tell you this, Mel, he can't learn from a better player than Orlando Pace. We just signed Orlando Pace back to a multi-year deal. He can't learn from a better person than Orlando Pace, who's a Pro Bowler. And Orlando is not a rah-rah guy. He's a passer, but he will dominate you. And I think Barron will come in and will see that. I think he will emulate that. He will definitely help us on the outside. And Mark Bowles, if you're sitting at home, I know you're smiling, because I'm smiling because we're going to air it out.
It's
Coach Mars, Jake, good job.
Troy, didn't you admit that it's clear that it's not Kyle Turley who's going to be teaching Alex Barron? They don't know where Kyle is medically right now. Is he 240 pounds? We know what the fallout was with the coach Mike Martz, and I truly believe they will be cutting Kyle Turley after June 1st when the salary cap is a lot less than cutting him right now.
Well, I think with this pick, I think this pick kind of solidifies that. You know, we still have to wait and see. But hopefully Kyle can get back. If not, then, you know, we got Alex Barron. We got a guy that they feel comfortable with. So we'll see how this young man fits up. But I think he's going to be a terrific player.
Yeah, because he's a pass protector.
Yes,
you get to catch the ball more.
Well, we understand Alex Barron is with us right now. Now, Torrey, he's only just, well, he hadn't signed yet, but he's part of the St. Louis Rams. You want to talk to, first of all, Alex, congratulations. And we have one of your new teammates right here wants to ask you a question. Torrey Holt.
Congratulations, Alex, man. I want to ask you, man. You know, there's been a lot of talk about you being passive, not being aggressive, being a little tentative. Tell the people out there how dominant you will be once you step on the field out there in St. Louis.
Oh, first of all, I just want to say thank you for selecting me, and I'm going to be ready to play either way it goes. I mean, I'm going to be out there with one of the best offensive tackles Orlando Pace. I'm going to learn from him. It's a great offense, and I'm just ready to get out there and show what I can do.
Right on, and I know that you played some basketball in your career, and what we ask of our tackles to get out on the perimeter, screens, pull in with the sweep toss. I know you can do that. I know you can help us there. I know you're very excited to get to St. Louis. Again, congratulations, man. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be there.
Yes, sir.
Well, hey, Alex, so pass blocking, you know that in St. Louis, there you go. Are you anxious to pass block 45, 50 times a game?
Oh, yeah, they're saying that's what I'm at my best at, so I'm ready to take it to the next level.
You follow the Rams much? Did you have a clue that they were one of the teams that was interested in you here these last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I had heard some different things about them, man, that they were interested. But, you know, this decision they made, I'm ready to play.
Well, they got a big bed for you in St. Louis. Good luck up there. Welcome to the NFL.
All right, thank you.
Alex Barron, St. Louis Rams. The Cowboys are on the clock with their second first-round pick. On the clock in the first round for the second time. There's Coach Parcells. There's the owner, Jerry Jones, in the Cowboy War Room. Certainly, War Room Cam was invented with Dallas years and years and years ago. Ed Werder is in Big D for the latest. Ed?
Well, Boomer, as I told you earlier, they're trying to make a conversion here to a 3-4 if they can use these 2 picks in the first round to get the players that they've targeted, and they have succeeded. They got DeMarcus Ware, the outside pass rusher, who will play outside linebacker in a 3-4 and give them the pressure player they haven't had. And with this pick, they're going to take Marcus Spears. And this is what they were trying to do, is a very calculated gamble as to which guy to take first, which guy might fall down to 20. They were so concerned about getting Spears on the back end with this pick that they've tried 3 or 4 times to move up without success. They stayed where they were. They got the player they wanted. And for the first time in Cowboys history, they'll switch to a 3-4 defense. Boomer, back to you.
All right, Ed, thank you. We all kind of guessed one of those 2 pass rushers and then Spears. It is interesting that what goes around comes around. A year ago, the Buffalo Bills traded with Dallas, this is Buffalo's pick, which is why Dallas is picking here, so they can move up into the first round and take J.P. Lossman. We'll continue that story. Dallas's pick is in, and it's probably the big guy that Ed mentioned, Mr. Spears.
With the 20th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Marcus Spears, defensive end from LSU.
Well, they got exactly what they needed. Pass rush outside, big guy inside, and rated highest, Mel, at this sort of position. It just, at times, maybe was a puzzle.
Well, I think they had to figure out where was he going to be best suited, Chris, and everybody came to the conclusion after the whole evaluation process was over that, hey, a 3-4 scheme is ideal for Marcus Spears. 6'4", 305. I thought San Diego would be a possibility. With their 3-man front, they opted for Sean Merriman, and here he is for Dallas. And Bill Parcells gets DeMarcus Ware, an attack outside linebacker, that hybrid. Now Marcus Spears, who I tell you, had a heck of a week down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. He was the highest-rated tight end coming out of high school, and Nick Saban at the time said, is he a tight end? Is he a defensive end? Made the move after early on trying the tight end to make the move to permanent status as a defensive end. Good kid, works hard. He's never going to be like a feared sack artist, but in this scheme, at 6'4", 305, he is ideal. This is a nice pick, and what it does, because I'm sure the debate at one point in time had to be, okay, if Spears is gone, maybe Mark Clayton should be our choice. Well, Spears was there. They did a no-choice, no-brainer here for Dallas. They're taking Spears. But Mark Clayton, Baltimore at 22, keeping their fingers crossed that Mark Clayton slid down to them to go along with Derek Mason, Todd Heath, and Jamal Lewis. Give Kyle Fuller what he needs, like they're doing in Detroit with Joey Harrington. Jacksonville probably looking maybe a corner like Fabian Washington. So this sets up nicely. Dallas is ecstatic. Sets up nicely, though, for the Baltimore Ravens with Mark Clayton still on the board.
Well, Ed talked about it. We've talked about it. The defense there, their 2 picks, the outside rush with Ware, the inside, well, the more stay-at-home huge banger in Marcus Spears, and so a 3-4 defense. First-time Dallas, not first-time Bill Parcells.
No, with the New York Giants, 3-4 defense, and certainly with the New England Patriots, New York Jets. But here's the thing about this also. Bill Parcells does believe bigger is better. And you went through defense. When he became the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, that shocked a lot of people. He looked at that defense. He was uncomfortable with it, but statistically, it was a top-ranked defense. And after the first year, he decided to go with it. It remained top-ranked. And then things started to fall apart. And I think, in a way, he kind of regrets that he didn't start this transition a couple of years ago when he first came on board.
Well, the first year it was good. It worked out.
But
so now in 2 years he's made the turnover. I started to stay a story here. What goes around comes around. That was Buffalo's pick. A year ago, Buffalo jumped up so they could draft J.P. Lossman with that spot, the quarterback, who's going to be quarterback this coming year because they jettisoned Drew Bledsoe. Where? To Dallas. It's amazing how that comes around a year later. So Drew Bledsoe, Vinny last year out, a younger Vinny, if you will, Drew Bledsoe, who with Bill Parcells went to the Super Bowl, the one they lost to the Packers. Can Drew Bledsoe, 2 years ago at Buffalo, was very good and very important for them in getting them offensive credibility. But if you can't protect for Drew, you wonder, can Drew Bledsoe refine the magic with Bill Parcells?
Well, this is a controversial trade, bringing Drew Bledsoe in, but Bill Parcells understands Bledsoe. First of all, you get a great defense so that you can get field position. You run the ball with Julius Jones, and you do a lot of play action with the Terry Glenns and Keyshawn Johnson and what have you. But clearly, Bill Parcells believes he understands you have to protect Drew Bledsoe through the running game and obviously with your offensive line. And I think they will work on their offensive line in this draft.
And then let me just complete this story here as you see Cowboy fans abound. What Buffalo is about to do, now, of course, they don't have a first-round pick. J.P. Lossman, who, of course, was on the team last year, broken leg, the general manager, Tom Donahoe, and the coach, Mike Mularkey, are about to meet with their media, and they're going to introduce their first-round pick this year, J.P. Lossman. It's hilarious. They're about to do that. A cab driver told me that they're going to trot them all out in front of the podium and answer questions. And here's a scoop. The 7 that Lossman wore infrequently on the field with Buffalo last year, I think he's going to wear it again. There's your scoop. I heard it from a cab. We'll be back as Jacksonville. No time as they're on the clock. A team that had so many close games. They don't want to play a close game. They want to get it over
with the 21st selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Matt Jones, wide receiver, Arkansas.
Wow. Wow, now this, Lucy got some explaining to do. Matt Jones, wide receiver / tight end, but you're saying, wait a minute, isn't that Matt Jones the quarterback for the Razorbacks? I know you folks at home are saying, isn't he? Well, Mort,
I can confirm that he is.
You know that Arkansas program better than all of us.
Well, I'll let Mel tell you about Matt Jones first, and I'll follow up.
Well, you know about him, Morty. I thought you had 6'6", 242, 243 pounds. He wowed over the NFL brass at the combine running a 4.36 40. That is incredible. That is unbelievable, rare physical and athletic ability with a 40-inch vertical jump. A kid who was in high school basketball star. Forget, in junior year in high school, he caught 22 passes, worked at wide receiver at the Senior Bowl practice. I thought held his own, didn't really wow you over, then made great strides up over the last 2 months, impressing wide receiver coaches who were skeptical and were doubters that he was going to learn the nuances or had learned some of the nuances of playing wide receiver, getting in and out of his cuts, being more natural catching the football. And I think that's why he became, with that rare physical and athletic ability. I had one GM tell me in this draft, Matt Jones was the best athlete overall. #1 best athlete in this draft. And Jacksonville, who got nothing out of George Reister, they have a blocker in Brady, want more of an H-back. They had Reggie Williams and Wilford last year. You have Jimmy Smith. You re-signed Edwards. So all of a sudden now, Matt Jones is that combo guy. My question is to use him at H-back or wide receiver.
6'6", 242, and he played right here. You can see on the Arkansas basketball team, so you know what kind of athlete he is. If Jacksonville needs a jumper from the corner, he's their man. He loves to fish. Here he is at the combines with the time in the 40, which wowed everybody. And you see, it's still then QB. And they're going, well, wait a minute. Even Joe Gibbs going, I don't the quarterback quite like that. And so now I've seen a wide receiver throw a pass. I've never seen a tight end around throw a pass.
No, and he could play wide receiver. How many 4.37 in the 40 tight ends are there? And if you sit in the stands and watch this guy play every Saturday, like I had the honor of doing this past year, you see a guy who runs away from the elite athletes in the Southeastern Conference. You know, John Gruden had him during the Senior Bowl. John told me this week, you know, Matt Jones can go from 0 to 130 like that. I didn't think people realize that. Hey, he's got a 40-inch vertical. This guy, he goes, has great body control. He has great hang time. And Floyd Reese, the general manager of the Tennessee Titans, told me he thinks he's the best athlete to come into this draft in 6 or 7 years.
Well, Mort, you know Matt Jones very well, and I wanted you to answer this question because everybody says a little lackadaisical. You know, will he put the word? How important is football to Matt Jones? You know the kid very well. How important is this game to Matt Jones?
Here's what I can tell you about Matt Jones. Every time he shows up on game day, he wants to prove he's the best player on the field. Highly productive guy, and he almost always does. He's going to be a guy who wants to be on Chris Berman's NFL primetime show. He's a great competitor. That's what Greg Robinson, when he was with Texas, told me. He said what an ultra competitor he is, and that's a part of him you don't see because he is laid back.
Absolutely. With that size, that speed. Sean Salisbury, let's get you in for a word. Sean?
Hey, Boomer, one of my favorite players in this draft, and I don't think Jack Del Rio has any explaining to do. I think this is a great choice, and I'm not going to tell you about all the measurables, but I am going to tell you why he translates. He won't play a sniff of tight end in this league. What he'll do to dominate defensive backs as a quarterback. Quarterback sees all 22, defense and offense. He understands what it's like to run a route as a wide receiver, what it's like on a curl route, to slide if a linebacker's in front of you. So I can teach him that, how to run a route and get out of the cut. What he'll know that a regular wide receiver receiver at times may not, is how to go from quarterback to receiver to be able to be on the same page and understand what's going through a quarterback's mind against man and zone. Matt Jones is a great pick. I think this kid's going to be a star in the league. And you know what? He's been competitive in the SEC. Mel, you don't have to worry one bit, or Boomer, or anybody, about how competitive he is. This is a steal at 21. I love this pick by Jack Del Rio. Jack will be in his face and make him a great player.
Well, how long do we think, Sean, thank you, how long do we think you can, well, you heard Sean's opinion, learn the position of wide receiver?
And that's, I'm listening to Sean, and I totally understand he played the quarterback position. He understands offense as well as defense. But at 6'6", 242, I think Matt is going to have to slim down a little bit to be able to use his hips, to be able to get in and out of breaks a little bit more precisely in the National Football League. Corners react differently in the National Football League. So those things he's really going to have to take heed to. And I understand he can catch the football. He's fast.
Hey, his shuttles at three-cone drills were off the charts as well,
right.
which that changed of direction.
And that's fine. But I need to see how elusive he is around the core area.
And he's still a projection. I was saying, everybody says he's still a projection, which makes it a little risky.
Yeah. That's right. I
most
just don't know much about
interesting
it.
picks are what? Matt Jones, Jacksonville, Mike Williams, Detroit. They're the two most interesting picks so far. And there's Matt. We'll talk with him when we return. Just been drafted by the Jaguars.
Welcome back to the 2005 NFL Draft. Baltimore's pick on the clock. Matt Jones, quarterback from Arkansas, just taken by Jacksonville. There's precedent for college quarterbacks making the transition to wide receiver. Hines Ward is one. What are your thoughts, though, on Matt Jones coming into the league as a wide receiver?
I don't necessarily think it's going to work out. I think he's going to have to show the ability to drop his hips, come in and out of breaks, like Torrey Holt said. And if he plays tight end, I don't know how tough the kid is. I mean, I know he's a competitor. But is he tough? And he's going to have to play special teams while he learns how to play receiver and tight end.
Yeah,
so you're right.
And he gets to get, we got the pick, and so I got to cut you off, unfortunately, but let's wait till he gets hit by Mike Vrabel also. Boomer, back to you with Baltimore's pick.
And more special teams.
All right, Andrea, Mike, thank you very much. So, hey, I mean, we'll see. And who better to know Mike Vrabel? Of course, he doesn't play the tight end that many times, but he has a few touchdown catches in the Super Bowl. Baltimore's picked quickly, and we've all speculated Torrey's favorite player, wide receiver, Mark Clayton.
With the 22nd selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Mark Clayton.
There it is.
Wide receiver, Oklahoma.
Yeah. And there are coaches and general managers that before Mel's going to look at the tape, and there they go nuts. Why not? It's the Ravens draft party. There's another team like Minnesota that is stocking the refrigerator. Mark Clayton. So many people said he's my favorite kid in the draft. Not even, favorite player in the draft.
Great kid, works hard. I'll tell you what, Ozzie Newsome, Eric DeCosta's first draft of the Baltimore Ravens, succeeding Phil Savage. This kid is a football player. Bottom line, I thought at the Senior Bowl practices, you go back over the years when LaDainian Tomlinson was there, and Steve Hutchinson, even Chad Johnson, who ended up being a second-round steal for the Bengals. This kid was one of the best players on the field, not the best, in Mobile at the Senior Bowl practice. The ability after the catch is phenomenal with this kid, as it is with Mark Bradley, his teammate, who figures to go early second round. Will be a nice pick at that point. The ability in the open field to make people miss. And I'll tell you what, everybody said, well, he's not that fast, he's not that big. He's 5'10 1/4, 191. He ran a 4.43 at the combine. That, I think, turned some heads and was convincing enough to say, hey, I'm legitimate. I am more than just a guy who was productive in college. I can go into the NFL and do the exact same thing, supremely consistent. And when you put him with Derek Mason, you put him with Todd Heath and Jamal Lewis. Hey, you mentioned Joey Harrington. How about Kyle Bowler? If Kyle Bowler steps up and keeps improving with Jim Fossil there and Rick Neuheisel there, all of a sudden Brian Billick's offense, now they have a guy. Torrey Holt said from the get-go, not Braylon Edwards, Mike Williams, Mark Clayton was Torrey Holt's best receiver, favorite receiver in this draft.
Can you zoom in right there? My favorite. I got a list of things about this young man.
Go ahead.
This young man can play the game. He's a good return guy. And what I like most about him and what he showed at the Senior Bowl, he has the ability to work to get open after contact. And that's something that you have to do in the National Football League. And one more thing about it. He's a small, more you said he's small. He's a stocky guy, and he likes to block. And he's going to have to be able to block for the Baltimore Ravens in that run game today.
And you're right. Everybody does love this guy, but the two concerns are his height. There aren't any really short receivers dominating in this league.
Deion Branch.
But dominating in this league.
Well, no, MVP at a Super Bowl.
And the other thing is he has some knee problems. Some teams actually drop them down because there's some arthritis showing up in his knee. But I've also heard people say he'll play for 10 years. He'll be great.
Didn't he save some folks' lives? Yes. Right?
Yes.
Pulled some folks out of a car, right? This is a great kid and a great receiver. And we have a trade now. All right, so Seattle is on had the next pick at 23, but Oakland has moved from 26 to 23. Is it the quarterback? Remember, I just guessed.
Could be Fabian Washington, the corner. They love
yes,
that's
the fastest.
That's
that who it is?
This kid ran, lights out at the combine, 4.2 plus from 40 speed. We talked about recovery ability, catch-up speed now with rules being so important. A junior came out early, kind of leveled off after his freshman year, but still had a lot of interceptions. And he's kind of the guy right now that you would think the Raiders would need a corner. And they like guys who are athletes and fast. Fabian Washington is probably the Raiders' pick.
So Oakland and Seattle would not have done business, I don't think, when they were in the same division in the AFC West. But, hey, this just in. Seattle's in the NFC. They can do business. Oakland's on the clock. We'll be back. They got this pick from the Jets a few days ago when they made the trade for Doug Jolly, the tight end who went to the Jets, and therefore they got the Jet spot. This one, for moving up from 26 to 23, they give Seattle a fourth, which the Seahawks will exercise tomorrow. Seattle's got a couple of guys, both of whom are still staying there. And Oakland, you got to guess one of two things. Aaron Rodgers, I just threw out there, the Cal kid. He plays in the shadows of the Oakland-Alameda County Coliseum. Or the fastest guy, Fabian Washington, the fastest guy in the whole draft, the defensive back. Remember, they traded Philip Buchanan, corner, earlier this week. Got to be one of the two. Got to be. We'll find out right now. The pick is up.
Doesn't have to be.
What doesn't have to be? I'm the Schwab. I'm just... I'm 50-50.
With the 23rd choice in the 2005 NFL Draft, acquired from Seattle, the Oakland Raiders select Fabian Washington, cornerback from Nebraska.
Good pick for them.
Speed.
No question, Boomer, you look at a guy who can flat out fly, can recover when he's beaten. I think when you look at Fabian Washington, here was a kid that when you looked at him early on, and you're talking about freshman year, was a starter and did a real good job. So you figure, okay, by the time he's a junior and senior, he's going to be spectacular. I thought he leveled off a bit. I didn't think he took that game from his freshman year to his junior year to the level you expect. And a kid who has the ability to recover, but ball skills. If you're in a position to make a play, sometimes a receiver gets the best of Fabian Washington. But 5'10 and a half, 188, and he ran at the combine in that 4.3 range, 4.27, 4.3, vertical 41 and a half inches, and did 18 reps, so he's a strong kid as well. He has all the measurables, all the computer numbers, except ideal height at 5'10 and a half, and the speed is unbelievable, and they need him. My question is ball skills and not going from his freshman year to his junior year and really going to the point where I thought he would be, which was an early first-round pick. I thought he was a 2, projected then to a 1 after the combine, Torrey.
And I like the ball skills, and I like the speed and the ability to recover. But I want to know, will he come up and hit in the run game is what I need to know. I want to know if he can come up and hit somebody in the run game. We know he can cover, we know he can run, but that's the question mark that I have on Fabian Washington is can he come up and stick somebody in the run game?
But speed and Al Davis. Al Davis always talks about intimidating opponents. Part of intimidation, he believes, is speed. You add Randy Moss with speed on offense, and obviously Fabian Washington could run a little bit on defense.
Well, 4.29, that is speed for sure. Green Bay, then Washington. Susie Colbert, possible spots for Aaron Rodgers, certainly.
Absolutely. Things could get interesting now for Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback out of Cal. I talked to his agent, Mike Sullivan. He said possibly Green Bay looking for a quarterback. No one's really sure how much longer Brett Favre will play, maybe one more season, but it's time for them to look for a successor. And then with Washington, is Joe Gibbs really set with Patrick Ramsey? Not sure. So if there is a possibility, it's probably here at pick number 24 or 25 for a time period. He did step out of the green room, wanted to have a little bit of privacy, but now back in with his agent, Mike Sullivan, and hoping to field a phone call. Now let's go upstairs to Sean Salisbury. Sean, why do you think he fell so far?
Well, Susie, I'll tell you, at this point, he becomes a major bargain. I think there's a perception about Aaron Rodgers that has to do with the mechanics part of it, Susie, where he holds the ball, and will it make him late at the next level in the offense he played in? But I'm not buying into it other than we can make a slight adjustment on the mechanics with Aaron Rodgers. Holds the ball up here. If he dips it down a little bit, then he won't be late. As you watch it, and he was so productive in school, but the reason why I think a lot of this, Susie, sits in the pocket, have a look where the ball's held. He's going to have to drop it down a couple inches to get in position to throw. And in the NFL, guys will intercept it, take it the other way. But here's what makes him great. The accuracy near 70%, unbelievable. And he's been productive in a major college program. And another misperception about it is he can't throw the deep ball. That is wrong. And I think that's why. And what happens when one passes, Susie and Boomer, is that the things start to plummet, and now there's no team to take him. I think if Green Bay latches onto him, they got themselves a nice successor. Plus, I think he's going to have a bone to pick after falling this far. Mechanics have been the one knock. I think he overcomes it, Boomer.
Well, Sean, I agree. And now, if it is Green Bay, let me just, so we don't gloss over, because you never hope to say this is going to be Brett Favre's final year. We don't know that. But the fact is, maybe he was drafted in '91 by Atlanta. Nobody remembers that. But he's been starting with Green Bay since '92. Plays every game. This is now the 2005 season. They have Craig Nall behind him now. But, I mean, at some point, even if Brett plays 3 more years and is ageless, at some point it's going to be Brett Favre's swan song. You don't want to say it. But so does Green Bay. I mean, they got to think about a first-day quarterback.
We're year to year with the Brett Favre watch in terms of retirement. And do you take a successor, or do you get him a player that can help him this year as the window is closing, certainly? Ted Thompson is the new general manager of the Packers. He served under the previous general manager, Ron Wolf, and then went to Seattle. If you study what Green Bay did under Ron Wolf, what Seattle did, certainly under Mike Holmgren and Ted Thompson, you always take quarterbacks. You don't have to take them in the first round, but you always take quarterbacks. And I think Ted really doesn't want to say we're drafting a successor to Brett Favre, because you really can't succeed Brett Favre. You just take a quarterback and see how it works out.
Oh, like you couldn't succeed Vince Lombardi, not be the next guy, but you can be the next quarterback there. Bill Cowher succeeded Chuck Nolan, that worked out. So it can. Now here's Aaron. I mean, we only because he's, still out there. I mean, 5,000 yards, 64%
in 2 years,
43 touchdowns. Beat Southern Cal once, should have beat him a second time.
And Jeff Tedford, the Cal coach, is a great head coach. He's a great quarterback coach. I know he's got to be disgusted hearing his talk about Aaron carrying the ball up there, because Jeff really believes it allows you to get the ball out quicker so defensive backs don't break on the passes quickly.
Let me say this more. At Butte Junior College, and I talked to Aaron about this, he did not hold the ball up there. That was changed by Jeff Tedford to get the ball out quick when those shorter routes, and now the cornerback have a chance to break on the football. He can go back to what he said if he has to. He did it at Butte Junior College, where he put up big numbers. This wasn't something that Aaron Rodgers did from high school to college, and he can't really break that habit. He will go back. I think if a quarterback coach says, hey, go back to the old way, a little more fluid, then I think Aaron Rodgers will have that ability. This is a pick you have to make if you're the Packers. I believe either Jason Campbell or Aaron Rodgers, because you look at quarterbacks. Who at 24 thinks a quarterback with this ability, 6th, 7th best player in the draft, is going to be there at this point? Normally they have to move up to get him. I know they have defensive needs at every level, linebacker, and secondary, but my opinion is the Packers have to take either Aaron Rodgers or Jason Campbell.
Well, there's a guy that's been in that seat. Our general manager, Randy Mueller, has been general manager in Seattle and same in New Orleans on our NFL Live set. And Randy, you're sitting there in a Green Bay position when you didn't think a guy like Rodgers was available. Yeah. You change everything and throw it out the window?
In a way, Boom, it's a nightmare because they have so many needs on defense. Mike Sherman, in the last year of his contract, he wants to win right now, but everybody knows Brett Favre's not going to be there forever. They've got a tough decision to make. Aaron Rodgers is a good player. I think he'll project to a good player in the NFL, but he can't really help him right now. So you're talking about something similar to Buffalo last year, where they take a quarterback and sit him on the bench and pass at another position where you can have an impact player come in and help you this year.
Well, it's a nightmare in that way, but it is, at the same time, at what level how many picks ago do they start debating this in their room? They could see this coming for the last 8 picks, couldn't they?
Maybe for the last couple days, Boom. They've had to have the discussion, so they know where they're going, but it makes it really tough on everybody because the timeline for everybody in the organization isn't always the same.
Do you find the next quarterback, Campbell from Auburn, close to Rodgers, or the way you handicapped it, that shouldn't even be a debate, Randy?
No, I think it's debatable because Campbell's a good player too, and he's got a big arm. He's really progressed in a different scheme. I'm not sure which route I'd go, but I think Jason Campbell's got a lot of NFL teams right now saying that he's the second quarterback.
All right, look, you're going to be GM again one day, but you're going to be GM right now for about 30 seconds, okay?
Yeah.
It's your pick. What do you do?
I'm probably going to take a guy at another position that has an impact right now. I'm going to stay away from this, figure out a way to replace Brett Favre at another time. You're talking about a bad defense. They need players on defense right now.
Well, there it is. Did you like wearing that hat for a minute?
Sure, whatever.
We'll see you later, Randy, who joins us every Sunday in the War Room. We actually have fun. That's the dilemma. That's the real dilemma. Help right now. Huh?
That is their dilemma. I spoke with Jeff Tedford, the Cal coach. I'm telling you, he really believes in this kid. He really believes that you can't say he's the same as all the other Tedford guys. Besides, how many quarterbacks can one coach put into the NFL? Forget about the success rate. But I think we're looking at quarterbacks here. You know, maybe it will be Rodgers and Jason Campbell going back to back here.
Well, listen to what Randy said. What Randy Mueller was saying, I agree with. It is tough. I mean, if you're Mike Sherman, you got defensive needs at every level, whether it's line, linebacker, or secondary. But let me say this: if you're the Green Bay Packers, where's the difference maker right now on the defensive side of the ball? You have Dan Cody, you have Sean Cody, Mike Patterson. You have corners like Marlon Jackson, Justin Miller. No linebackers of content. Where's the defensive players going to upgrade that stop troop significantly? I don't see it right now. That's why I think if I'm picking, it's already up there. It's Aaron Rodgers, quarterback from Cal. I know some like Jason Campbell. I had him third. I would take Aaron Rodgers.
Well, on the phone, and that could be a lot of things.
Yeah, hopefully it's something good.
Here's the throw.
That's in the pocket. That's when he's the best. He's at his best in the pocket. He steps up hard in the pocket. This kid is tough. I mean, he doesn't care about who's coming around him, defensive lineman up the gut. He's stepping up and threw that throw and delivering the football accurately. And when I look at Aaron Rodgers, I think when he's flushed, when he has to move, is when he really comes out of his comfort zone, because when you hold that ball up there, it affects your quickness. And I think that's something that will be tweaked at the pro level. Aaron Rodgers, one thing you can't teach is accuracy. He's pinpoint, he's precise, he's a great kid. He was one of the most poised athletes in the interviews, the way he went about his business there during the combine workout and the interview sessions. I'm surprised he's there at 24. Not shocked, because we know quarterbacks drop for need reasons. But if you're the Packers, I got to take him for it.
And he will be asked to make some plays out of the pocket. And you said that's a concern of yours, and that's something that they can correct with the ball placement, and something that they can practice on a regular basis in practice. But when you look at the 64% completion as a receiver, I like him.
You know,
because he's going to get me the ball where I need to get the ball and allow me to make plays.
You know, it's interesting because they have taken the responsibilities and shifted them from Mike Sherman, the head coach, to Ted Thompson, as we just mentioned. And, you know, if Mike Sherman were making this decision, and I don't know, I haven't talked to Mike about this, you know, would you take that immediate guy who can help you, or do you go ahead and take the quarterback? Now, it's easier for Ted Thompson because he's looking at the future of the franchise behind Mike Sherman's
I'd do it.
contract.
I would. Pick him.
Well, we'll see.
Pick him.
Yep. We don't know. But
well, we're going to find out. Pick him. Pick Aaron Rodgers. Be happy. He's going to be a better last first-round pick. A quarterback the Packers made was Rich Campbell, 81 from Cal. He'll be better than Rich Campbell, please. Gotta be.
You can only hope for Aaron's sake.
Let's go. Make the pick. It'll be great. And Brett, I hope you play 5 more years. It's okay. No one's booting him out the door. That's for darn sure. Pick him.
Right.
Let's go.
With the 24th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Aaron Rodgers, quarterback from California.
There you go.
Good for him. Going to a historic franchise.
And I hope that he goes to Green Bay with a chip on his shoulder. I hope that he does. Because I know he had high expectations coming into this draft.
Who did I mention earlier had fallen to the second round in his draft, although he wasn't projected as Brett Favre.
Yeah.
And Brett Favre was actually rejected by the team that took him in the second round, the Atlanta Falcons. So certainly maybe Aaron can have a few conversations with Brett and what it's like to go prove yourself.
Believe me, Mort, Brett thought he was a first-round pick. He was at the Super Bowl. He had that great career at Southern Miss, orchestrated that big upset over Florida State when he was with the Golden Eagles. And, yeah, he thought he was a first-round pick. He was projected to be anywhere between 20 and, say, 25. He dropped to the second round. Browning Nagel, quarterback Louisville, went to the Jets with one pick after Brett Favre that year. Boomer Esiason dropped to the second round. Thankfully, Aaron Rodgers didn't. He's the 24th overall pick to a storied franchise. Brett Favre's still there, so what better quarterback to say, hey, this is how the NFL operates. This is what you have to do to get better, to get to my level as a Hall of Famer. Great situation for Aaron Rodgers to go to, going to Lambeau, Green Bay Packers.
I'll tell you what, he won a lot of people in this crowd. They've been rooting for him all day. He should play his home games here at the Javits Center. And you know what? Good for the Packers. And good for him.
Yeah.
No pressure now. Go learn from one of the best ever.
Absolutely.
And bring your thermal underwear.
Well, they don't have that in Berkeley. They'll have to go out and get some.
You know, another thing you can learn from Brett Favre is just to watch the way Brett interacts with his teammates, because obviously Brett is held in high regard by his teammates, but he's not a guy who forces his personality on anybody. He's just Brett, and he's obviously comfortable in his own skin. So Aaron, I think, will benefit from seeing that.
Yeah, I think he's fortunate. He's very, very fortunate.
It was a hard day's night for Aaron Rodgers, but in the end, he has a hit record. He's with the Packers. We'll talk to him in a moment.
NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
Welcome back to New York City in the 2005 NFL Draft. Some things are definitely worth waiting for, and Aaron Rodgers, quarterback out of Cal, had to wait almost 5 hours, but now you're a Packer. Brett Favre wasn't even a first-rounder. What do you think you can learn from him?
Brett is an amazing quarterback, and he's been my favorite quarterback since Joe Montana retired, and I just love his mental and physical toughness and the way he plays, the confidence level he plays at, and I couldn't be more excited about the guy I get to, come in behind and learn from.
All right, what was this day like for you?
Well, it wasn't the easiest day, but yeah, it was a long day. Not a lot of things went the way we thought they'd go, but I'm just so excited about being able to go to a team that wants me, and a team that I can just learn from the greatest quarterback of our day right now, and I'm just excited to get out of that green room and get back to the green and gold in Green Bay. 2
years ago, as you were graduating from high school, there were no Division I prospects. What did you think was going to happen then?
I always hoped that I'd be here, someday, but looked kind of dim when I was heading to Butte College my first season. But I'm just so excited right now. I'm doing something that I've dreamed about doing all my life, and now I get to play with the greatest quarterback, in the game right now and learn from him.
So junior college for a year before Jeff Tedford discovered you there. What do you think made the difference? What was it that clicked for you, that got you to this point, a first-round quarterback?
I think it's just a confidence level. I started playing at a high level because my confidence was so high, and being able to work with Coach Tedford and learn from him the mental side of the game and the fundamentals that I think are going to carry over and make me successful at this next level really just sets me above. It just made me want to be an NFL player even more and more, and I'm just so happy right now.
What do you think in terms of mechanics needs a little work to translate from your success in college to the NFL?
I don't think much. Maybe they might want me to bring the ball down a little bit, but I think that the way I hold the ball, my mechanics, my footwork really sets me above the other quarterbacks in this draft.
Long day. The crowd went crazy when you were picked. You earned a lot of fans already.
I appreciate that. It's been a long day. I appreciate the fact they understand, it's been a little tough on me, but I couldn't be happy with the team that picked me and what next year and the years to come is going to look like being a Packer.
Have a good trip to Green Bay.
Thanks a lot, Susie.
The 2005 NFL Draft continues as we go back to Chris Berman.
All right, Susan. All right, Aaron, thank you very much. So it was a double overtime game, but he won the game in the end. And now with our Coors Light video conferencing, let's welcome in from Green Bay the general manager of the Packers. That would be Ted Thompson. And Ted, take us through today in the war room when it became apparent that, Aaron Rodgers is going to be a very serious choice for the Green Bay Packers.
Well, we'd seen all the mock drafts like you guys do during the course of the last week, and in a few of them we saw where Aaron Rodgers might get down close to us. So we had some conversations about it, but we really didn't think that was going to happen because it just didn't make sense that a player like this would get that far in the draft. But the closer it got, the more serious we got, and then we started making sure that we were going to do what we're going to do. But we are very fortunate, I think, to get a football player of this quality at pick 24.
Ted, was a first-day quarterback always part of the plan, or was that part of your plan today?
Well, not necessarily part of our plan. We want to make sure on the first day we take really good football players, and I know that's a cliche, but it's the honest to God's truth with us. And we felt like at the time we picked Aaron Rodgers, he was the best football player on the board, and that's the reason we took him. But we didn't go into the day thinking we had to take a quarterback on the first day. No.
What's your favorite part of Aaron Rodgers? What does he bring that's the favorite thing that you just acquired?
Well, I think it's the way he plays the game. You know, he knows what's going on around him. He has a really good feel in the pocket. He gets the ball to the receivers on time. And like I say, I just think he's a really good football player.
Yeah, he is, and he's going to learn from one of the best ever, Brett Favre. Thanks, Ted. Good luck with the rest of the draft.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Thompson, and of course, well, they were thinking about it. Oh, my goodness, it might happen. Should we? Should we? This is one of the best picks he ever makes. The first one. When we were, well, all the financial projections rising, falling. Now, who's left? We've got Washington, Seattle, Atlanta, San Diego, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and New England. And that's the first round. Mel, you're bored.
Roddy White, I think a very underrated standout player at UAB with the Blazers. Kid who's got skills and had an excellent career. 21.6-yard average and a 20.5-yard average as a senior. One player you don't see in there is Jason Campbell, quarterback Auburn. He's been discussed a lot for this potential area, whether it was Green Bay or Washington. Washington was second pick. They already got the corner. They wanted to Carlos Rodgers. Their other need is wide receiver, but speculation existed. Len Pasquarelli talked about this week, ESPN.com, Jason Campbell. That's why they moved up to Washington. That was the speculation from Lenny, and it looks like that's the direction they may go. I think it gets down to Jason Campbell or Roddy White, and Joe Gibbs, wants to handpick the quarterback of the future. And number 17, you saw Doug Williams. Who did Doug Williams win a Super Bowl for? Joe Gibbs. You see a lot of Doug Williams in Jason Campbell. And he's not a one-year wonder. I've even discussed that, when we talked about him the last couple of months. He completed 60.3% of his passes, not 50. So he was already at 60+, and he went to almost 70% completion percentage this past year. Went from about 10 touchdowns to 20. Interception ratio was phenomenal, and that's why Jason Campbell is now in the late first-round mix.
Well, we'll see. The Redskins, who had that Underground Railroad all of a sudden working with Denver. Remember Portis and Bailey a year ago? All of a sudden, the trade back and forth. Washington's second first-round pick. The pick is in. Will it be bang and bang, quarterback?
Yes.
Is that all you have to say?
With the 25th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Jason Campbell, quarterback from Auburn.
Well, we do know this. There was a leak.
Yes.
There was a leak.
Listen, I think it wasn't a leak as much as it was they didn't cover a base. Mel?
Yeah, I think when you look at this particular pick, it is surprising because they want to win now, and Jason Campbell's for the future. So obviously Joe Gibbs isn't thinking about just this season. He says, hey, we had one first-round pick, now we get another. You don't have a lot of picks, give up picks next year, but he feels this is the right quarterback, and Jason Campbell had a great season and a career where he won 31 games. That's the most ever by an Auburn signal caller. And the thing that's impressive is not just accuracy, completion percentage, but ball placement, putting the ball where the receiver, be it a wideout or a tight end, can keep in stride and maximize that reception with yards after the catch. That's the one area of Jason Campbell's game that was very impressive as the quarterback coach has studied this kid and evaluated this kid and moved him from maybe a third-round pick into the second round and then into the late first round, very late in this process.
But when Len Pasquarelli of ESPN.com reported on Tuesday that they had made this trade targeting Jason Campbell, Joe Gibbs was actually visiting Campbell at Auburn, along with Bill Musgrave, the quarterback coach, and it was after that visit that they consummated the trade in order to get into this slot. And Joe Gibbs was livid about this thing becoming public. Like I say, whether it was a leak or not, no matter what you say, they conducted an in-house investigation. You don't conduct an in-house investigation if it was fiction. It was a heck of a job by Len Pasquarelli.
Well, it's not the first leak that's coming out of Washington.
Well, like I say, I don't think it was leaked from inside their building. But obviously,
You say the
eventually, you don't cover your
Redskins, I
base.
said Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're afraid. Green
Inside
Bay
the Beltway.
What if Green Bay would have taken Jason Campbell? I mean, because they went with a quarterback. They just happen to like Aaron Rodgers over Jason Campbell. That's why you can't have information flow out and get out there that we're taking this guy. Why we moved in and gave up all that to get a player. You don't want anybody to know why.
However, they got the guy anyway, and in their 2 first-round picks, both Auburn. Carlos Rogers, Jason Campbell.
Well, Auburn,
it wasn't his first trip down there.
4 first-round picks tells you why Auburn was 13-0. And yes, Southern Cal, USC won the national championship, but it tells you just how good a football team that Tommy Tuberville had down there at Auburn.
And I like, from a player standpoint, is that they have an opportunity to be on the same team together. So now everybody is a little more comfortable. I'm sure they may get a house together. They may be close by to one another, but they get an opportunity to talk. They get an opportunity to push one another to make sure that they both become the best player that they can possibly be. So I like the guys, both of those guys, being on the same team in Washington.
Well, we have a veteran Tory Redskin working with us, which is John Jansen, with Andrea and our cold pizza. Said Andrea Kramer, ask John if he knows how to sing "Hail to the Tiger." Well, never mind.
Yeah, John will learn that new song coming up, Chris. Well, Patrick Ramsey is your best friend on the team, number 1. Number 2, you did have the 30th ranked offense, but a year ago, we're talking about Mark Brunell as Joe Gibbs' handpicked quarterback. So between that and the fact that now he takes Jason Campbell, what does this say about the quarterback situation in Washington?
Well, I think, you know, there's a couple things you can take from it. One, he came in with Mark Brunell last year. He said after training camp, after there was open competition, Mark's my man, he stuck with him as long as he possibly could. He went with Patrick at the end of the year. He liked what he saw.
9th game of the season.
He liked what he saw from Patrick. Patrick did a great job at the end of the year. He ended the year by saying, Patrick is my man no matter what next year. So one thing he proved is that he will stick to his word. He will say, you know, he will say what he means, and he's going to stick to it. So I don't think Patrick has any worry about, you know, is this my job? Is it not my job? He told him, this is your team. This is what we're going to do this year. And if this guy's available, he talked to Patrick about it. If this guy's available, we're going to do everything we can to make our team better. I want to push you. I want you to push this guy. We want to win ball games. That's what we're in this for. And there's no doubt about this is Patrick's team. It's his team to lead, and that's what he's going to do.
Well, how does Patrick handle that? You talked to him this week about this very pick, the possibility of this pick.
Before we got a chance to sit down and talk, Patrick was upset. We were all upset. We didn't understand what was going on. But then we got a chance to sit down and say, hey, you know what? You know, Coach Gibb is true to his word. He told you this is your team. And there's no doubt about it that, like I'm going to say from now until the end of next year, it's Patrick's team. He has to step up and be a leader. It's something that, you know, for the first 3 years, it's hard for a quarterback to come in and say, all right, this is my team. I'm doing this, you do this. Now it's his 4th year. It's go time for him. He's got to make a big step forward in leading this team and playing well.
Got a 3-headed monster quarterback in Washington. Well, Seattle is on the clock. The NFL draft will continue. Please stay with us.
As we hit the highlights with the Mazda draft track. San Francisco, the #1 pick overall, goes with quarterback Alex Smith of Utah. 3 running backs go in the top 5 for the first time ever. Ronnie Brown of Auburn goes to Miami. An emotional Cedric Benson selected by Chicago. Cadillac Williams, another Auburn running back, goes to Tampa Bay. But the big story of the day was the 5-hour wait. Aaron Rodgers, Cal quarterback, selected by Green Bay at number 24. The first wide receiver taken, Braylon Edwards, who will go to the Cleveland Browns. The Randy Moss era is over in Minnesota. They take Troy Williamson, the speedy receiver from South Carolina. And Mike Williams, who's waited a year to be selected, joins a loaded receiving corps in Detroit. In all, 4 Auburn players taken in the top 25. Seattle on the clock.
And we're back at the draft in New York with the Seattle Seahawks. I made a trade with Oakland there at the 26th spot. I have a question. I don't know if it's for sure what they're going to do. Roddy White, wide receiver, Alabama, Birmingham. Does he catch most all the balls?
Most. He had 1 key drop against Florida State.
Yeah, but does he catch most of the balls?
Yes.
That's more than...
Seattle ought to think about it, right? Because they're a team. Look, Torrey, you guys personally did them in 3 times last year, including, 3 close, get 1 unbelievable comeback, the playoff game, another comeback. What was the difference of Rams versus Seahawks?
You know, it's always a tough game when we play Seattle, but, you know, what we feel like we can, what we do best is we feel like we can we try to out-mentally tough Seattle. They have a lot of physical talent that can run with us every single play, but we feel we can kind of mentally out-tough them there, and they had some opportunities to make some plays in some games. But it goes back to what you said. They dropped some passes that kind of hurt their football team. So it'd be interesting to see if they bring in a Rudy White to help that ball club out as far as catching the football.
Well, I mean, they could do a couple things. Now who are we looking at, Mel? We had the quarterbacks.
Here he is, Roddy White, wide receiver UAB, with that tremendous average per catch of over 20 yards the last 2 years. And I think if you look at it, you say Heath Miller, like a team that I think would be hoping he's there is Pittsburgh at 30. And you have the two corners, and then you need center guard help. So you talked about you mentioned Chris Spencer from Ole Miss. How about David Boss from Michigan? So two versatile guys on the interior, the offensive line with Chris Spencer and David Boss to go along with Roddy White, the wideout from UAB, as the possibilities for the Seahawks.
Look, Seattle at 9-7 last year. We thought it was a team that really could make a move, at least to the championship game. I know, with all due respect, Torrey, but, you know, perhaps a couple of picks here. They've changed some of their roster a little bit. Maybe they get back on that track. The pick is in. Let's see.
With the 26th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Chris Spencer, center, Mississippi.
They went the other way. So they went the other way. Spencer, a center. He had versatility, right, Mel? Guard, center.
Yeah, that's exactly what Seattle
Bobby
needs.
Tobeck,
on the interior of that offensive line, they have some issues at center and at guard. And I think you look at Spencer, when he came to Ole Miss, it was a recruiting coup. You go back to Eli Manning coming to Oxford to play for the Rebels. Well, when they got Chris Spencer, you know, away from some other schools in the SEC, it said, boy, Ole Miss, what a job recruiting to bring a talented kid like this in who everybody wanted coming out of the prep ranks. He's 6'3", he's 310 pounds, had played both right and left guard, then moved to center. Here's a kid who's a gifted athlete. I think you look at a kid on the offensive line who can really move those feet, good strength. And I'll tell you, when you have a versatile kid who has been proven in the SEC at both center and guard, both on the right side and the left side, for Seattle, this is a typical pick of a need being fulfilled. Now, if you're asking me, I would have probably leaned to Roddy White because they need somebody who can catch the football. Now, Spencer was projected to be late first, early second, as was David Boss, who's a heck of a player out of Michigan who figures in the late first, early second round. I'd have probably opted for the wide receiver like Roddy White based on the way my board has flowed to this point.
Well, again, we've talked about a shift in power. So Tim Ruskell, who was the assistant general manager under Rich McKay, both in Tampa and now Atlanta, moved to Seattle in this offseason. He's making the call, and obviously he feels like the receivers are adequate enough. They got to address some basic needs, and that's why, obviously, you have the center here.
Well, and guys at this level who can play, you know, center or both guards along the line. There are other receivers here, you know, second, third round that you can get. You might not get it might be quite a drop at that sort of position. I don't know, guys that can play both center and guard. Atlanta, San Diego coming up. And so the big-time playoff teams when we return to New York in a moment.
Jason Campbell, the quarterback, being chosen by the Redskins. Great day, a prideful day for Auburn coach Tommy Tuberville.
I tell you what two great kids. I tell you, Christmas comes early for Tampa Bay. For Carnell Williams to go all the way down to the 5th pick, you know, he's got a heart bigger than Florida, and he is a great young man. He's going to be a great football player. I heard somebody say that he might not be able to carry the ball that many times in the NFL. He carried the ball 43 times in one game as a true freshman against Georgia for 250 yards, and he was ready to go for 40 more. And this is a great kid that's got a lot of ability. And then Ronnie Brown, I mean, he's a complete package. He can catch, he can run, he can block. I've had Deuce McAllister, I've had Rudy Johnson. This kid can really play. And they're both going to be all pros if they stay healthy.
So those two running backs both going in the top 5 overall selections. The cornerback Carlos Rogers going later to Washington. I mentioned Jason Campbell as well. And as great as the running backs are, Mike, only the 3rd time in the common draft that a pair of running backs from the same school have both been chosen in the 1st round. None higher than Cadillac and Ronnie Brown. But what's the toughest hole that Auburn's going to have to fill next year?
Jason Campbell, losing him. Now, anytime you lose Ronnie Brown, Cadillac Williams, it's going to hurt you. But Jason Campbell was the guy that started everything off for the offense. Brandon Cox is going to be the replacement. He's a left-handed thrower that's very accurate. Many coaches at Auburn say he's more accurate than Jason Campbell. So he doesn't have the playing experience, but they have their first 5 games at home, Reese, so he should be able to get out of the box well.
That first game at home, though, against Georgia Tech might be a little bit tricky.
You wrote that down, April 23rd. I said pick. But the thing that's amazing to me is, Reese, you lose your entire backfield in the first round to the NFL draft. But keep in mind that Auburn finished #1 in the country last year in scoring defense. Not only do they lose their offensive backfield to the NFL draft, finish #1 in total defense, but they lose their defensive coordinator, Gene Chizik, to the University of Texas. So we spent all this time talking about offense, but Auburn also lost their defensive coordinator as well.
I think what's key for Auburn and Tommy Tuberville is how he meshes his team together this year, because the losses of that offensive backfield, you have to go back to that. You rarely or you never see 2 running backs in the top 5 picks of the NFL draft. You can't replace that. This isn't Miami or USC where you just plug in another great player. This is Auburn. He had a tremendous season last year. That's the challenge for Tommy Tuberville this year. How does he replace that dynamic offensive backfield?
But when you put 4 guys in the first round, doesn't that lend itself to giving you a little staying power, a little more prowess on the recruiting trail?
Down the road. Not this year, but down the road, because it's going to help them recruit those high school seniors this year and next year.
They'll win 9 games this year. I'll tell you, Auburn is a very good football team. When you win, it rubs off on your football team. So this
Georgia Tech. Those of you who have DirecTV, you can watch our continuing coverage on channel 609 on DirecTV for ESPN. You got to call that cable operator if you don't have it on your cable system right now. Chris Berman and the guys with continuing coverage of the NFL draft from the Javits Center in New York City. Right now, the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock. They've got the 27th overall pick. We'll see in which direction the Falcons go. 26 picks so far have been recorded in the first round. Back after this.
ESPN pay-per-view by... And in part by Nissan, who invites you to shift your ride. And Dan and Frusion, the real smoothie in a bottle.
Back in New York, will we see these players come off the board very quickly? Roddy White, the wide receiver we spoke about with the Blazers at Alabama Birmingham. Dan Cody, big pass rushing defensive end from Oklahoma. Keith Miller, the tight end from Virginia. We haven't had a tight end go. And Marlon Jackson, defensive back from Michigan. Those would be some of the names you should get acquainted with here as we have the last half dozen picks of the first round and what is steamrolling towards what may be the longest in the history of the draft. Back in 2002, 5 hours and 48 minutes was the record. We have a shot. That's all you can say is we have a shot. Atlanta's pick is in. Let's go up and find out what a Final Four team, the Falcons, were just marvelous in year 1 under Jim Mora. Let's see what they do.
With the 27th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Roddy White, wide receiver, University of Alabama, Birmingham.
Well, he certainly didn't play ball far from there, and that might signal
San Diego
they
Chargers
can upgrade
are now
in that
on the
area. There's no question about it, even though they tried to make moves for that.
You're right, Ed. You look at Roddy White. We talked about him on several occasions for Washington, for Seattle, and areas in Atlanta at pick number 27. Roddy White at 6'1 1/4", 205 pounds. You see the good size there, good hands. As I said, he had the one drop against Florida State. That was the only critical drop I saw all year. The ability after the catch. This kid did run phenomenal 40s, but a lot of people thought maybe 4.4, 4.42. He ran 4.45, but some people said maybe 4.37. Well, he never got to that level, but he's fast enough. And he averaged 21.6 yards a catch as a junior, then 20.5 yards a catch this past season. The kid got it done. I thought all along, going back to August and September, he belonged in the top 25 senior board. I had him on ESPN.com, rated that high. Most had him in the second or third round, but I think late in the process, everybody started to get a little higher on Roddy White, and I think at this point, for the Atlanta Falcons, again, best player probably on the board, Mort.
Well, their leading receiver was their tight end, Algie Crumpler, and, Peerless Price had 45 catches. They did take Michael Jenkins of Ohio State last year in the first round. He didn't really have a big year, but I know that, go back to Ron Wolf, the former general manager of the Packers, his biggest regret, he said, was always not surrounding Brett Favre with enough weapons, and surely Rich McKay is thinking, you put some weapons around Mike Vick, Torrey, and you saw him in the Pro Bowl because Mike Vick can throw the ball.
Mike Vick can throw the ball extremely well, and he scrambles very well. And one of the things that Rudy Wright does a good job of he can move with Michael Vick when Michael Vick is scrambling to get himself open to catch balls. So I think it would be a great pick. I think he's a great pick for Atlanta. I think he'll challenge Peerless Price. I think he'll bring another dimension to that ball club.
One thing, Boomer, how many wide receivers are state champions wrestlers? State champion
Wow.
wrestler for Roddy White. That's rare.
That is very rare.
He can catch the ball extremely well.
And that's the information that you've brought to us for 22 years, which is a perfect segue into You've Got Mel, which we've had for 22 years, presented by Cars.com. Very simple question, Mel. Who will prove there have been 6 wideouts picked thus far, and we still have some slots left in the first round? Who will prove to be the best wide receiver in the NFL?
Take a guess who I'm going to say.
Matt Jones.
Matt Jones, we got Mark Clayton, we got everybody. I'm going to go with a guy I thought was the #1 player in this draft. He went to the Detroit Lions at pick number 10. A little bit of a surprise when you go Roy Williams and you have Charles Rodgers 2 years ago, but Rodgers coming off an injury in back-to-back years. I think Mike Williams, with his size, will be outstanding. Even Merrill Hodge now is becoming a Mike Williams fan because of the fit in Detroit. Merrill thought he was going to be kind of pigeonholed a little bit and a little limitation there, but I thought overall he's a heck of a player. And as I said, in Detroit, now all of a sudden Joey Harrington with Kevin Jones in the backfield has the weapons now to hopefully pick up his game.
We got a couple minutes left here on ESPN. Just want to tell you what's coming up here. At the bottom of the hour, we got NBA basketball. The playoffs start a triple header. All this draft moves just one click, hopefully on your dial, over to ESPN2. If you're going, oh, no, they're going up, don't worry. You're not going to miss a pick at the end of the first round, second round, third round. San Diego is up for the second time here in this first round. Let's go out to the West Coast and join George Smith this time around for the Chargers. Hi, George.
Hey, Boomer. Well, the first thing I should point out is how relaxed the atmosphere is out here compared to last year when the whole Eli Manning saga was going on. A whole different story out here. Now, the big rumor going on yesterday was a possible trade involving Simeon Rice coming over here from the Buccaneers for the number 28 pick. That seems to be a dead issue now that they've satisfied their need by picking Sean Merriman, a guy who's going to help them with that pass rush. So they seem to have satisfied that need. So we're thinking that they'll go to the other side of the ball. They're looking for help on the offensive line, possibly a tackle, and also at wide receiver. So they've got the defense taken care of. Maybe they'll go to the offensive side this time. Boomer?
Well, we'll see. Although defense, I think if everything was equal is what they would do. So just to throw out a couple of names, and it doesn't look like anything's happening, but names at least were inquired about this week. George mentioned one, Simeon Rice. There are a couple teams inquiring. Jason Taylor is a name just might be around. And, of course, we have not seen a Travis Henry trade at this point. There were several suitors for the Buffalo running back who's now been supplanted by McGahee. Maybe we'll see that happen on this day or this weekend. Just some names, not the name drop, but that could happen. San Diego, look, here's a team that have the staying power to stay where they moved. I mean, they made an unbelievable move up the ladder from worst to first in the division.
And some of the stats different from when Will Chamberlain and Bill Russell played. But rebounding, that is a spectacular number. And he's a guy that picks it up in the playoffs. He's a dedicated team guy.
We said we will be on ESPN2 very shortly on a day that began with Alex Smith being selected by the San Francisco 49ers. On ESPN, the regular NBA playoffs triple header, Houston versus Dallas. NFL Draft, watch us on ESPN2 until
the Draft, presented by Coors Light.
And welcome those of you just joining us on ESPN2. If you've been with us, thanks for turning the dial for just a sec. We're at the Jacob K. Javits Center on the west side of Manhattan, where, along with Chris Mortensen, Mel Kiper, and Torrey Holt, the wide receiver extraordinaire of the St. Louis Rams, and Susie Culver and Sean Salisbury, and a cast of thousands, from Andrew Kramer to a lot of our players, to our gang up in Bristol. I'm Chris Berman. Glad you could be with us. And if you're wondering, well, geez, what did I miss? We didn't even get done with the first round, even though it's been 5.5 hours. We got San Diego, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Philly, and New England. And then all the second round, then all the third round before our day is done. We've seen a couple of surprising picks. We've seen, Mike Williams going to Detroit, picking wide receiver 3 years in a row. We've seen 2 Auburn running backs go in the first 5. We've seen Matt Jones, a quarterback, be picked as a wide receiver in the first round by Jacksonville. We've seen the saga of Aaron Rodgers waiting 5.5 hours to get selected by the Green Bay Packers, where he can learn from the very best. That would be Brett Favre. Some of the highlights, of course, which began with Alex Smith from the San Francisco 49ers. San Diego is one of 4 teams that has 2 picks. The Chargers earlier drafted Sean Merriman, the big pass-rushing defensive end linebacker, just let him go toward the quarterback. And now San Diego, yes, they could go. Look, last year, Drew Brees, in wondering whether he would even be a Charger, Drew Brees had one of the best seasons of any quarterback in the National Football League. Phillip Rivers sat. Phillip Rivers will sit this year. We go a year at a time. But so now a quarterback who played well, a running back, LaDainian Tomlinson, who's the best in football, breakout year for the tight end, Antonio Gates, and a defense which was staunch against the run and won 12 games. This is a competitive division. With Denver, Kansas City's going to be better. Oakland's going to be better. What do the Chargers have to do to stay on top, and do we expect the same from Drew Brees?
Well, I think this is a telling season. Certainly, they want to see Drew Brees do it again. But look at the Chargers' schedule. Look, they have a grueling road schedule. They're at New England, at Philadelphia, at the Jets, at Indianapolis, at Washington. Heavy East Coast flavor with a lot of 10 a.m. West Coast time in terms of kickoff. So I really believe that they're going to have to step up with the defense, and Drew Brees has to at least match what he did last season.
I think more you look at need areas, free safety, added Jew, but is he going to be an improvement over what they had? They hope he will. Brodney, pulled from Oklahoma, still on the board. A free safety, had a real big sophomore year. As a junior this past season, fell back a bit. And you look at another kid from Oklahoma, I like wide receiver Mark Bradley. All the speculation was, well, if Mike Williams is there, the Chargers may take him. Here's Mark Bradley still on the board. And a kid at Georgia, who I really liked at the Senior Bowl practices, Reggie Brown. So you have some guys there, positional need areas for the Chargers on the board late in round one.
You know what I thought made the Chargers? The Chargers were an interesting team dynamic in that they whisked out a lot of players that we've always lost around here. And they made that change in a hurry. I mean, here's the turnaround. You don't go from 4-12 to 12-4 very often. Scoring, you know, about as much points as anybody this side of Kansas City and I guess the Colts. And points allowed, you go to the top third of the league. So, and you win the West. You know, they had a playoff game that they lost at home to the Jets, but for many of them, it was their first entry into the playoffs. And you know what that's like. Person can't all be St. Louis, like, hey, we're in here, we've never been in here before, and we win a Super Bowl tour. That's a tough thing to do. And now San Diego may not have as good a record, but in the end, they might have a better team.
I think it's very big that Drew Brees duplicate what he did last year in order to make this football team get back to the point they were last year.
But go ahead.
Go ahead. What?
But just think about how this franchise has been slammed around, going back to the Ryan Leaf pick and everything that happened there. Even going back to this draft a year ago when Eli Manning rejects them, and they take that criticism because he didn't want to play in San Diego. Marty Schottenheimer was getting fired. Now he's got a raise. A.J. Smith, the general manager, was getting fired. I think Dean Spanos, the president of the team, showed a steady hand through all this, but they still have to come back and put together a good year this coming season.
And I wonder if next year, a year from now, they're going to go to those powder blues. I think it's the time.
Can only hope.
I think it's the time. Can't do it this year. You got to petition like 8 years in advance to the league to change the uniforms, but we'll see. We'll see how they change the team. Their second pick here in the first round is in. The Lightning Bolts.
Okay.
Still to upgrade D.
With the 28th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the San Diego Chargers select Luis Castillo, tackle from Northwestern.
Now there is a story here. Luis Castillo, who many thought fell out of the first round. He was quite forthcoming in admission. First, the player, Luis Castillo, before the off the field, well, involved on the field, now from Northwestern.
Well, you know, Marty Schottenheimer, defensive-minded coach, takes Sean Merriman to upgrade the defensive line. We talked what a weak link that was. The guys surrounding Jamal Williams, and all of a sudden now come back with Luis Castillo, a kid who, when you look at Northwestern, played in a lot of football games, 31 consecutive games, battled through some minor injuries, a classic all-out hustler. Then he went to the combine, and he goes and puts up big numbers. You're talking about a kid who's 6'3 1/4", 305, ran a 4.86, did 32 reps, and had a 34.5 vertical. And I think at that point you say, okay, wow, this kid is a physical specimen. But you go back and look at him at Northwestern, I don't think he dominated play at Northwestern like those numbers would indicate. I thought he was a second rounder. Obviously, Marty Schottenheimer disagrees, taking him ahead of two kids from USC, Mike Patterson and Sean Cody.
You know, it's interesting. There were some teams that had late first-round grades on him. I know of one team in particular that knocked him down a full round because Luis Castillo tested positive for steroids at the Indianapolis Scouting Combine. Now, the steroid was andro, which the NFL now classifies as a steroid. And Luis Castillo was upfront about it in a letter with teams. He said, yes, I took this. I had a painful elbow injury that wasn't healing. I wanted to perform well at the Combine. He took it for 5 days. He tested positive. That's a surprising part because this is one of the smartest players in the draft. But obviously for the San Diego Chargers and many other teams, it was not going to be a problem. In fact, his coach and Lewis provided the medical records from Northwestern that showed he had not tested positive during his stay at Northwestern. And everybody I've talked to says he is a great kid.
So do we think that the Chargers may have gotten, because a lot of other people fell off, would he have been a first-round pick without the question, Mel, or not?
Now you say he probably would have been. If they're going to take him in the first round, San Diego, as I talked to a number of teams that were targeting Luis Castillo early second round. Morton and I talked about that this morning. I thought he might get down to Buffalo in round 2. And certainly after that, you would have said, okay, after what happened at the Combine, maybe, and the word came out, maybe he will drop down to them. Morton, you were debating it with me. You thought maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. To go in the late first round, to me, is a bit of a surprise, considering where teams, like you said, had moved him when they're bored.
There was at least one team picking him from San Diego that did knock him down a full round grade because of the positive steroid test, because they just felt it put some uncertainty into some of that. But at the same time, like I say, he did have a clean testing history at Northwestern, regardless of the fact that we know that even the NFL's testing policy is certainly can be beaten if you want to beat it.
Isn't this the sort of pick you make? Yes. Isn't this the sort of pick you make, though, when you have 2 first-round picks? You take a little bit of a not that it's a big flyer, a little bit of a on-paper flyer with one of your 2 first-round picks. This would be the time that you would do that. And so Merriman with no flyer, they just hope he flies around the tackle to get to the quarterback. And now Castillo. So along the defensive line, along with Jamal Williams, who had such a huge year for them last year, bulking up. Let's go quickly to Susie with Sean Salisbury.
Sean, as the guys are saying, certainly this is a team that has an opportunity to maybe take some chances. Perhaps the only team in the NFL with all of their starters back. But what do you think about Castillo and teams maybe dropping him down because of what happened at the Combine and steroids?
12-4, they got better. I think it's a non-issue, Susie. I really do. As Morton, those guys mentioned, didn't test positive at Northwestern, took some steroids to get himself healthy, got back at it, wrote all the letters. I think he came clean. You take the best football players as long as you don't think there's going to be a long-term issue, and there won't be. They needed help inside with Jamal Williams. Now if Jamal gets double-teamed, Luis Castillo could come in there and take a big body also. I love the pick. They've addressed their needs, and I don't think steroids are an issue here at all. Matter of fact, I think it's highly overrated in the NFL, and I don't think Castillo's got a problem with it. One time only. You won't see it again, Susie.
This is a team that was able to change the whole reflection just by changing the defensive scheme with Wade Phillips.
Absolutely.
2005 NFL Draft continues from New York City as we look to wrap up the first round. Stay with us.
And they've made their pick this quickly.
With the 29th selection in the 2005 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Marlon Jackson, cornerback from Michigan.
Now, Marlon Jackson was a player that the Colts did not expect, were hoping, but did not expect to still be there. And look, let's face it, they're making improvement in defense, but they'll be the first to tell you, Tony Dungy, a defensive wizard, they got a way to go.
Marlon Jackson's been playing a lot of football at Michigan, going back to his freshman year. He's got good size at over 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. And the question with Marlon Jackson was, since he didn't move to safety in 2003 with the Wolverines and moved back to corner this year with good results, was he going to be an inside presence in safety or a true corner? And then he ran pretty well. He didn't run great, but he ran at least acceptable 40 times at 4.5 to 4.53 to say, okay, he can match up in coverage as a cornerback in this league. Good football player. Look at him, he was a co-captain this year for the Wolverines. Going up against Braylon Edwards every day in practice certainly doesn't hurt your cause. Braylon and Edwards and Marlon Jackson had battles throughout their career every day in practice. That helps because that's those Miami Hurricane kids who had to do that every day in practice down there with that great football team. So I think at this point, we knew Indianapolis had to go defense. The question was more, would it be defensive line or secondary?
Well, Tony Dungy told me that the key to drafting is getting a player who you think fits your system, how he projects into your system. So in this case, you don't need a true fast speed cover guy. You need a guy who can play that corner and that 2 deep and what have you. And in fact, Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, told me, he said, you know, I got a great general manager in Bill Polian. He said that he thinks Tony would make a great general manager one day. He said, I knew I had a great coach when I hired Tony Dungy. I didn't know what a good evaluator he was. And this is the type of player that Tony Dungy is trying to get to build this defense to get past the New England Patriots, obviously.
Who they play again in Week 9 on a Monday night. The Indianapolis, I mean, that's their bugaboo, like the Packers used to try to knock on the door and beat Dallas to try to move on, and they couldn't do it. And then finally Dallas got out of there, and Green Bay went all the way through. And so that's the same thing. Let's go back to San Diego with George Smith, with the coach, Marty Schottenheimer. I lied. With the coaches, with George Smith, we just can't show it to you. So before we were interrupted, let's go back to the Indianapolis Colts. Look, they're a team that against everybody but New England, and they're going to have a day when they beat the Patriots, okay? They're going to have a day. Of course, they'd like to get the game at home, which they had once a couple of years ago in that goal line stand by New England. Against New England, but they began and ended last season with the Patriots. The opening Thursday night a loss, and then in a playoff loss, but they're going to have their time. The pick is coming in from Pittsburgh, and we've already suggested.
One last thought on the coach. Tony Dungy also said, look, he said, just as the Rams with that great offense needed to win a low-scoring game against us in that NFC Championship game a few years back, the Colts are going to have to learn how to win some of those low-scoring games. It's not always going to be 40, 50 points a game. Right. And so that's why the defense has to
Tony loves defense. I mean, he knows in order to win championships, in order to move on past the AFC Championship game or the AFC semifinal, they have to play defense. And add Marlon Jackson, I think that gives them some help on the secondary.
And they're not done doing it. Now, here's Pittsburgh, and I got to think with the one tight end there, Heath Miller, that this would be a good guess. We've already suggested it. Let's see.